Hello. I suppose I'm streaming again. Let me post a link to this in Reswitched. Okay, that's that. Yeah, I guess we're gonna be trying to do this on stream. I don't think this is gonna be a crazy interesting stream in the way that the last few have been. Uh, but I want to be streaming a lot of this kernel development work, and I can stream. So I guess we're streaming. Will anyone show up to this? Serious question. I have no idea. But maybe they will. Is anyone present? Oh, hey, Adubs. Thank you again to Adubs for helping with the NCM stuff the last few weeks. I'm very, very happy that that is released. So we are streaming in VMware instead of Hyper-V for the first time, and I have no idea if that is going to make a difference, but it's a requirement for me to do USB and Bluetooth stuff, which I need to do kernel development. So we're trying it. I have verified before I started that I can connect my switch. I have to do the actual RCM exploit from the host, or else there are problems with memloader. But for example, if I turn on my switch and then I run memloader, hey John Jaded, we should see it pop up here. Yes, this is my switch. This is my actual Switch's SD card. This is probably a horrible OPSEC, but I don't think I have anything meaningful in here that I care in particular about being publicly visible. So it should be fine. But yeah, so I have to do the RCM exploit in the host, but when I do that, afterwards I can mess with the actual switch in the VM. So that should be good. Here, let me turn it off and do that again, since we are just waiting for people to show up. Hey, Inherisian. Audrey. Hey, Shadow Ninja. Okay, let's do this one more time to make sure that it works. Actually, it's a question mark. Hey. Yes, okay. I think it just ran. Hopefully it'll show up. Yep. Okay, so that'll work. That's good. That is step one, is being able to interact with my Switch's SD card from the virtual machine. The other thing that I should do is I should git pull atmosphere, because this VM will not be updated yet. I should actually update libnx to atmosphere aux libnx git pull upstream master make j16 install. Okay, yeah. If you are not aware, not following, an atmosphere release happened today, and so I need to update the copy of atmosphere that's in the VM if I want to be messing with it. But okay, I should probably talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing tonight. This is not like a diffing stream. This is not a reverse engineering stream. It is my plan to stream my development work for the Horizon kernel for the next few weeks. Hey, Kitlith. And to do that, I need to have the kernel set up to talk to my PC over Bluetooth. And to do that, I had to switch from Hyper-V to VMware. So this is the same VM, but now running under VMware instead of Hyper-V. Let me also make J16. Let me build atmosphere while I'm talking. But so tonight is probably not going to be so interesting. It's going to be prep work, but I figure I'm going to have to spend some time setting up to do development. I might as well do it on stream and be able to talk with people. If it's not interesting, I apologize in advance, but this is probably just going to be like an hour or two of me messing around with Bluetooth in this VM until I get the kernel talking to it. Oh yeah, the other thing that'll be fun is I had to make changes to Fuse and Exosphere in order to get output to work when I was doing this a couple weeks ago on my host, and I don't remember what those changes were, and Yeah, we're gonna have to do them again on the fly, since I just do not remember at all what I did. Yeah, interesting. Today is not going to be a super exciting day. It's just going to be me setting up to do kernel development for future streams. The VM has 16 cores out of 64 thinks. So 3/4 of the resources are allocated both memory and processor wise to my host, and 1/4 are allocated to the VM, which seems about right to me. Also, I apologize if there are any drinking noises. I made tea beforehand. I'm still kind of sick, and so I will be drinking tea throughout this stream. I apologize if the drinking noises are weird. I have still not found a replacement for my tea store, Adubs. Thank you for knowing that that's a thing. I really like green teas, Kitlif. I drink a lot of this, this tea place that Adubs mentioned that I like makes this vanilla sencha that's really good, but they closed down, and I haven't been able to get any more. So recently I've been drinking this rice tea that I get off of Amazon. It's Yamo Motoyama, great, like roasted rice green tea. It's pretty good. I use a Blue Yeti microphone in Horizon. I just got the one that Hedgeberg recommended. Okay, I think that we theoretically have atmosphere built, which means that it's going to be time to start setting this up. I'm not sure what type of Blue Yeti offhand. I would have to check, and I am super happy to do that after the stream if you want. But I have no idea. Hedgeberg told me get this one, so I got this one. Yeah, it is time to rebase the atmosphere branch. So let's do that. Let's git checkout. Atmosphere dev. Let's do git rebase master. Git log. Yeah, okay, so that looks like that's done. Brent Chosen asks, why are you creating this kernel for the Switch? Is it going to be for Atmosphere, or is it just a habit? This is for Atmosphere, but it is because Atmosphere is all about re-implementing parts of the Switch's operating system. I really, really love the design of the Switch's operating system. It's called Horizon. It's this totally novel microkernel, and I think it's really well designed, and I love it, and I want there to be an open source implementation of it so that people who are interested in it can see how it works. And that is a lot of my motivation behind Atmosphere in the first place. And so it is the natural course for me to be working on re-implementing this kind of thing. Okay, so if I remember right, the first thing that we have to do is we have to add to Fuse and Exosphere stuff for the new uart device. The uart that I'm working on is uart-C, and if I remember right, Exosphere and Fuse don't know about that literally at all, which is a problem. So let's fix that. Let's go to Exosphere, source. I think it's uart.h. Yeah, that should be right. There's about uart-C, but there was something else that I'm not remembering. It's not right. It's that we don't reset the right thing. Let me search that. Char uart-A. Yeah, okay, so there are a couple things that we're doing. I think we need to add the clock and reset stuff for it. And I remember this, because this is the weird thing where uart-C is not 6 or 7. Hey Big Daddy UK 666, but it's something big. It's 0x20 plus 0x. I don't remember if it's 17 or 0x17. I think it's 0x17, but that might be wrong. That is definitely something like that. And then I also need to add an entry for the card device in here. I know that it has a special value of 0, but I don't remember what the offset is. So I guess we are going to pull up the TRM. Tegra X1 TRM. This is also how I do this whenever I need the TRM. Tegra X1. Yeah, there we go. PDF archive. That's the copy that I usually use when I need it. Great. Yeah, no, I really want Horizon on x64. I want to have Horizon running on my PC. Not like commercial games or anything, but I want the operating system to be running. That is the big goal. Okay, clock and reset controller. uart. Yeah, so uart A is 6 uart 7 speed. Let's actually verify this. It should be somewhere in here. uart C is 23. Okay, yeah, that is 0x17. So that's correct. Okay, I remembered that right. Yeah. It'll be... Okay, we're looking for clock reset controller source uart C0. So let's search for that. There is not ZNX domain. I am using a patch called Joyless that's made by Deer, the same guy who did Caffeine, the same guy who did NXMTP. Okay, it's 0x1AO. And it is a software mod for the Joy-Con. And the way it works is that the Switch talks to the Joy-Con over USB, and the Joy-Con is running a custom firmware that talks to my PC over Bluetooth. And there is no hardware modification required at all. It's entirely software. Okay, that's that. And then, okay, let's minimize this again. We wanted to get rid of the uart references. So it looks like there's stuff in bootup.c, uart A. Yeah. We want to configure uart C instead of uart A. I configure uart C, and we want to initialize uart C. The patch is like a gist link. It's definitely been linked in public before, but I think Deer hasn't like explicitly published it. It's like a secret link that you need because he's worried about people bricking their Joy-Cons. I will ask him for permission to link it in like the description of the YouTube video for this stream after I'm done. It shouldn't be a problem, but you know, you never know. Okay, I also want to do here, after I do this, uart config, I want to send stuff here. Uart send, uart C, Ohio, N, I'll also send an R for safety, and that should be Ohio is 5 plus 7. I want to uart wait, uart C, what's the thing? Yeah, uart vendor state tx idle. Okay. How easy is it for userland to utilize uart? I'm not sure. I've never tried, to be honest. You copied uart b on car.h. No, uart c is 20 plus 17. That should be right, I think. Oh, thank you. That was dumb of me. I did mean to change it. Yep. Thank you, Murdy. Well, I guess this is one advantage to doing this on stream, is that people can catch the stupid mistakes that I would normally only find when I compile this. So then in SMC API, I think I need to add stuff for uart. Do I? No, probably not, actually. But the thing is that this, right, that's the other thing I remember, is this uart needed transactions inverted, which was kind of a pain. And so if I go down here to UX, enable FIFO with default settings, I think it was here that I did this. I think I barely remember this. I know it's IRDA that I need to change. Yeah, it's this one. Okay. UART IRDA is 0x02. And this inverts the transactions, which is necessary to make it work. I don't actually understand why it's necessary to make it work. But I know that, what's his name? Deer told me that I needed to do it. So, I do it. And then the the other thing that I need to do is I need to change the other uart usages, which will be in warm boot main. And sc7.c. sc7, I don't expect that we will actually get the power off, but oh yeah, Sumi. Should be uart send uart c, and this should be Sumi rn. Let's make that 10. And then what else is there? There's in warm boot main. Should be uart c. Should be uart c. Should be uart c. And I'm also going to make this uart c and uart c. In boot up, do we only initialize on dev? No, okay. We do this everywhere. That should be good. And this should also be good. And that should also be r/n and 8. And then the other thing that I need to do is I need to fix up Fuse so that it knows how to support Mesosphere, because right now it does not know that the Mesosphere kernel is a thing at all. So we need to fix that. And that'll be in Fuse. I really hope I'm getting all this right. Let me actually make sure that Exosphere builds, because that's the thing that matters. So 8 is the number of characters that it's sending. Oh, you're right, that is 7. Man, I'm really not great at this. Implicit definition of uart wait. Oh, is it uart wait idle? It's probably uart wait idle. Okay, in bootup.c. No, I shouldn't send the null terminator, so it's 7. You're right. Let me also fix that in bootup. Oh, it was already right there. I am not a smart man. Thank you, Incognito Coder, for spotting that. Source kernel patches. And I am just going to hack this in because I'm not planning on publishing these changes. These are like just changes that are needed for my developing Mesosphere. I'll come up with a real solution that is not a dumb hack in the future. Hopefully. Probably. So in the Mesosphere case, it'll be a null kernel info because we won't know about Mesosphere, and it'll be an SD card kernel because I'm going to load Mesosphere off of the SD card. Yeah, no, this is all very much a hopefully kind of thing. Hopefully, if I didn't fuck up, which, to be honest, I will probably fuck up. But that's what happens. That's how it goes. What was I thinking? Right, okay. Mesosphere formats. Let me check how I did that again, because I don't actually remember. Sphere kernel, source, ARM64. It'll be init start.s. Okay, so I have this layout. Okay, so I have this MSS0 magic at the start of the binary. And did I close that? No, kernel patches is right here. So, and please don't write code like this. This is going to be a really, really gross absolute hack. If volatile uint32t pointer, I want, is it underscore kernel? Yeah, it's underscore kernel. Pointer t underscore kernel plus 4 is equal to, okay, MSS0. 0 is going to be 0x30. M is, I don't remember. Time to check how to spell that. MSS, yeah, don't ask that question again. MSS0, 53, 53, 4D. Okay. 53, 53, 4D. So this will detect when we are using a Mesosphere kernel. And in this case, we need to set the out ini. And where do I store that offset? It is at +8 is the ini base address. So that'll be plus volatile uint32t and pointer t kernel +8. And then I also want to set the kernel size value because I want to know where kernel loader is. So let's do that too. That's going to be at plus, that should be right, yeah. Is that right? Yes, okay. I want to change where it is. Volatile, unit 64T. Liberty, kernel plus 8. This is going to change where it is to point to the actual kernel that we will load. Okay, so here's what this is doing. We need to detect mesosphere, and here we say the output ini that is embedded in the kernel image is at this offset. And then we overwrite that so that instead of using this ini, it will use the mesosphere one. And this is normally handled here. It's like the same code, except I'm hard coding the offsets. Yeah, that'll be fine. Probably. It's kind of the problem is that I just do not remember this at all. And the other thing I need to do is in Fuse, I need to configure some GPIOs. And I'm going to cheat on this one, and I'm going to need to search from where Tux told me how to do it, because there is no way I'm going to remember what GPIOs I need to change off the bat. GPIO. So give me a second. I'm going to search on Discord from Tux to see what he told me to do forever ago. Okay, I need to configure the uarts as up and down respectively, or whatever it is. The important thing is I need to change G0 to GPIO and D1 to SFIO. Of course, we also changed the GPIO configuration API. Is it still the same thing? GPIO configure mode? Yeah, it is. Great. Okay. And this will be... I never remember. I don't want to be like right here. GPIO configure mode. Tux as it is Tegra. GPIO G0. GPIO mode GPIO. And then configure mode. GPIO D1, GPIO mode SFIO. That should be that. Okay, that is probably everything. This is going to be some hassle to get set up. So let's add my Joy-Con to this PC over Bluetooth. Will it work immediately? Who knows? Bluetooth or the device, Bluetooth. Cool, looks like it is there. Let's connect. Okay, it's not connecting. That makes sense. Let me restart it. It probably died and needs to be redone. Okay, so it's in Joy-Con mode. This is always a hassle. So the way that you get this custom firmware to boot, it's like this dual boot thing, is you hit the button and then you tap the screen, or you hit the sync button and then you tap the controller, and there's no way to do it consistently, and so I just have to spam the button clicking thing and hope that it works. There we go. Okay, maybe that worked. More Bluetooth options, COM ports. Okay, COM4 is the one that we want. Great. Let me plug this into the switch. And then let's build Atmosphere and copy it over. There's going to be more to do. I need to get TIO in WSL working. Also, it'll be really funny if I get this working in an hour. So let's see. Let me disconnect that and connect to the host. And then let's connect my switch via RCM. Okay, RCM exploit is run. Great. Okay, let's build all this and hope that I didn't mess that up. Yeah, so there are separate COM ports for incoming and outgoing, and we care about the one that's labeled outgoing because that actually means outgoing from the switch to my PC. So yes, that is intentional, question mark. I did not design this. I am just using something that someone else made. I guess in the event, if this actually gets working like in reasonable time and it's possible, I might do development tonight. Like if this is just done in 45 minutes in that rare event, which would surprise me, then I will probably implement an SVC or something and talk about how the kernel works. So maybe that'll be significantly more interesting. Can you turn off the USB drive warning thing? I have no idea how to do that. Let me edit my configuration while I'm doing this. I think I saved it. Yeah, I had this one, which was for debugging the kernel. Right, I turned debug mode on, and that was about it. Oh, it's already on. Okay. Right. I was using this Exosphere on the SD card to test previously. I have no idea why it's showing file system corruption. Like, maybe my SD card is actually corrupted. But if it is, I'm not aware of how it's corrupted. Interesting. I might do that if I end up needing to go to RCM and back a bunch. Okay. I'll do that later. It's not such a huge hassle right now, and I would rather not risk going into my settings and having OPSEC problems. I doubt that's a problem because this is a virtual machine, but caution is a habit. Caution is a habit. Okay, I actually think this should be a fine configuration, since the only thing that's different between here is that I was using an SD card copy of Exosphere. Yeah, but I don't really want Windows to repair it. I don't know that I really trust Windows to repair a drive over memloader. That seems super suspicious to me. Like, that seems really suspicious to me. I am using a virtual machine for OPSEC reasons, Murdy. It is impossible for me to leak things that I don't want to leak if I am doing stuff inside a virtual machine, and so I do stuff inside a virtual machine. Okay. Out any one. Okay, sure. And yeah, Atmosphere takes forever to build. It's it is the cost of basically implementing an operating system. Kernel patches.c. Out anyone. So that'll be that. And it just occurred to me that there's something else I need to do here too, which is I forgot that I need to do this. But if I look at this build mesosphere script, it will open up an ini binary and use that. And so let me quickly go to my host and copy over the ini that I was using previously, because you need processes to actually boot the kernel. Copy this. Can I just copy it directly? I can. Great. Okay. Now let's make -J16. And my iteration process, once this is done, will basically be go to the mesosphere, go to the mesosphere folder, build. God, really? I'm just not good at programming. What's wrong here? Volatile use 16T. Oh, okay. There we go. That should be right, I think. And you're welcome, Peen Super Loser, which is also a super funny username. I love working on Atmosphere. And I hope that people enjoy using it. Okay, it looks like that built successfully. Of course I didn't make dist because I'm bad at doing this. You know, you would think that I don't do this every day of my life, but I do this every day of my life, and I apologize for the fact that I am not nearly as competent as I may sometimes seem to be. Okay, let's copy this. Place these. And then I want to go to the Sphere folder. I want to sphere.bin atmosphere kernel.bin. Okay, so now Atmosphere will boot using the kernel. It is because I can only be competent on June 15th, Bearded Squid. That is exactly the problem. Okay, I need to get WCell set up. So let's go ahead, see Windows System 32 bash. And I need TIO, which, do I have that? Maybe? Okay, so apt install TIO. If you care, my password for this VM, okay, really? Why did it say it can be installed with sudo apt? Do I need to do an apt update or something? Sadly, I don't really think I can use the Windows terminal for this. I tried and it just didn't work. Okay, maybe it'll work now. Yes, looks like it's working. And it's comport 4, which will correspond to /dev/tty_s4, if I remember. Yeah, dev tty_s4. Okay, it says connected, which I think is a good sign. And then let's eject this and do the thing. And if we're very lucky, this will all appear to just work. Do I think I'm that lucky? No, I do not. But you never know. It's possible. Okay, I need to use a primary. There's the sept logo. There's the atmosphere logo. And nothing. Okay, that's not crazy surprising. That is, you know, kind of expected. You know, it's a shame. Let me also just make sure that it's not TTY-S3, because it might be. I am notoriously bad at getting this right. I don't think I'm gonna break my console, Zacky Cat. That is not the kind of issue that I think will really happen from this. I'll try that one more time, just in case it's TTY-S3 and I'm misremembering. And same thing. Okay, so that's not crazy surprising to me. God, I swear it's Control-T-Q. Why am I so bad at doing this? Well, when you can't get it to work, you close the window. Interesting that it says not really connected. I guess I'll try this one more time, and then I will start trying to debug. If I need to debug, it will probably look like my writing stuff to uart from Exosphere. Okay, running the exploit one more time. Sorry that this is not so exciting to view from the stream, but we'll get it working. Also verify COM ports, devices, more Bluetooth options, COM ports, yeah, okay. Oh, there we go, it worked. Okay, we did it. Awesome, great. I was not expecting that. Fantastic. I love when things work when I try them again. I wonder if it's just like a bad Bluetooth connection or something, or it's just not fast. But awesome. That's fantastic. Okay, let's turn it off and try that one more time. And maybe it will just keep working. I will move the switch physically a little closer to the Bluetooth device too. That might help. Wow, okay, I was not expecting that to work at all. Fantastic. It seems odd to me that it is only getting output sometimes. Am I maybe not configuring it right? Or is this that thing where Tux was saying that it's necessary to add weights to the uart to initialize it properly? I think Tux mentioned something about that, actually. Let me go check. I think that there needed to be weights inserted. Oh no, those are there. Wait 3 symbols, wait 3 cycles, wait 32 cycles. It is very odd that it just worked that one time and is now not working. That is very strange. Like, I have no idea why. Here, I'll run it again. It would work that time. It must be a timing issue with how I'm configuring it like this. It's also odd that I'm not seeing the Ohio message coming in from the secure monitor. Like, I don't have a good idea for why it would have just worked that one time and then it wouldn't be working now. Let me go search through my old notes with Tux, which it's a shame that I can't really do that in the host. What does uart_config actually do? It writes to UART registers, right? I wonder if I... Hey, Thog! If I go to uart.c, or bootup.c where I was configuring the uart, that'll be an exosphere, exosphere source, uart.c. Yeah, okay, that's doing that right, and then bootup.c is where I'm initializing it. I wonder if the clock reset needs to be done before the configuration. That could potentially be a problem, but I'm not entirely sure. Let me double check the car stuff again. 1IO, 0. I did do 0x20 plus 0x17, which should be right. I mean, the fact that it worked once means that it's not entirely wrong, but that's still really weird. Then this will have the uart RDA CSR is 2. That's also right. And no, that should be right. Am I not waiting for it to go idle? Yeah, this could be VM shenanigans, but that would be annoying because like the whole point of doing this stream in the VM is to be able to see output on the stream. I wonder, is it possible to forward output from the host to the guest in some way? Like if I could, I don't know, do like T in the host, I would be willing to have it sent to the host if that's more reliable and then show up in the guest. But I want you guys to at least be able to see what the output is so that you can understand what I'm working on, because it would kind of defeat a lot of the purpose otherwise. I'm gonna run it again. Oh, huh, you're right. I could just capture the command window, couldn't I? That is actually a pretty good idea. If it doesn't start showing up reliably, and I think it is not going to, I will try doing that. Let's try doing that, actually. That's a little more cross-VM isolation than I'd like, but I think that's worth trying. I think it's absolutely worth trying. Let's see if that will get it to be more reliable. So in that case, let's disconnect my Bluetooth adapter from the VM. And then let's show Bluetooth devices. I am going to try to set it up on the host. Bluetooth. Sorry that you can't see me trying to set up the Bluetooth device on the host, but we're going to do our best. Okay. This is me doing the thing to try to get it to be in the bootloader mode again. Man, I am so bad at getting it into this mode. Like, it always takes me a million tries when I need to get it into this mode. I am not using VMware as a hypervisor. I'm using a VMware workstation player. Oh, right. Do I need to go to Bluetooth devices in here? Oh, no. There it is. Okay. It is theoretically connected on the host now. Theoretically. Let's see if that works a little better. Gonna run it once in the host. Let's see. Windows System bash. Okay. If it works, I will. Actually, I guess I'll. How do I know what COM port it is? Yeah, no, right. It's a lot of clicking. Okay, it is COM3 right now on the host. Let me set up the TIO window on the host. TIO dev ttys3. Having to do the same thing that I just did in the VM installing TIO. Okay. I don't know what's going on there, but it's fine. TIO dev ttys3. says it's connected. Let's try this. If this works, then I will connect the VM to it next. Yep, okay, it showed up on the host. So I guess it is just VM communications issues. Oh, how would I do that, Philix? Because I would love to just forward a COM port. Actually, I'm gonna Google that. VMware forward COM port to VM. Now, serial port connection to the VM. Okay, well, this is something else. Okay. Serial port, connect via network button. Ugh, that's not exactly what I want to do. Do you actually know how to do that, Philix? Because otherwise, I will just add this window as a displaying thing in the guest and call it a day. Like, I am satisfied with showing this window. I think that's fine. I guess what I'll do is right now I will set this up, and then in some future stream I will forward the port. Yeah, let's try that. Manage virtual machine settings. Add serial port. Cannot add until the virtual machine is powered off. Okay, yeah, it would require me to turn the VM on and off, which is a pain. Let's just show this window. Can you please fill your desktop with IDA shortcuts? That'd be pretty funny. We got OBS. Let me add a window capture. Let's call this TIO port capture. And what I want to add is TIO port. Okay, let's move that over here and make it visible. Okay, maybe that's a thing that works, although it'll be kind of weird if it's just like kind of in that fixed position there. I guess that's kind of nice, but I don't know, it's a little odd. Let's move that over a little. That's probably good enough. Okay. Put it over the VM console window. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Except the problem with it being like this is that I will have to manually turn it visible and turn it invisible when I want you guys to see what's happening. But yeah, let's verify that that works. Let's run this. Atmosphere is turning on. Yep. Okay. So, it looks like we are set up to do stuff. And with that said, would people be interested in my actually doing development tonight? I am happy to actually do a little bit of development, even though I was not actually planning on doing that today. I honestly did not expect us to get anywhere close to finishing this in this quick of a time. Okay, yeah. Since there are way more people here now than there were originally, I am happy to re-explain what I'm doing. So, whatever increases the length of time I can hear your voice. Thanks, Fried Keenan. No need to apologize. I'm super happy to explain. So, the Atmosphere is a custom firmware for the Switch that I work on. And I am really interested in having the Switch's operating system as an open source thing that people can look at and understand if they want. I really love the Switch's operating system. It's called Horizon. Nintendo came up with this new microkernel design that I think is a really cool real-time operating system. An Atmosphere, in addition to the usual stuff that people expect when they run custom firmwares, sees it as a top-level goal to re-implement modules from the operating system as open-source software, so that people who are interested in the operating system can easily play around with it, can easily modify it, and can read over the source code to understand how it works. And so I am currently working on implementing the Switch's kernel, which is like the piece of the operating system that supervises all of the programs and all of the processes that we say run in user mode. And I have, prior to streaming, set up so that I, can debug the kernel that I'm writing. And that's what this output is that you can see up over here. Oh, wow, that hides my mouse. Sorry that it hides my mouse. I have implemented all of the initialization code for the kernel already. And now we are going to be implementing system calls. So we are going to be in the cycle, if I'm doing development, of I will implement some stuff, I will compile Mesosphere, and then we will run the kernel on hardware and see if it gets further. So, with that in mind, let's get started. The way that I have the kernel structured in here is that almost all code, let me get this back to set up to how I was doing development earlier, libraries lib Mesosphere, almost no code lives in the actual Mesosphere directory where the kernel is built. It's all in this shared library, libmesosphere. And that's because the kernel reuses structures between kernel and kernel loader, which are two different programs that have their own elfs and own binaries. And so putting everything in the shared library, one, is super funny because it's really funny to have the kernel be a shared library. It really amuses me. And also it means that I can use link time optimization on all of this code. Yeah, we'll get all the sys modules in as shared libraries eventually. That's also a goal for libstratosphere. Yeah, it's a static library. You're right. I think of it as a shared library, but that's just because I don't do anything that's actually a shared library. Okay, so it's svc get info that's failing. And svc get info is going to be in, well, we can see that it's saying it's kern svc and svc info. That'll actually be in source. svc. I have all of these files with stubs for the different system calls. I implemented this really, really complicated compile time piece of machinery that takes in a function prototype for a system call and automatically translates between the user mode invocation ABI to the kernel mode invocation ABI. And so we should not have to do any code at all for the actual system call tables. That's in here where it's source arm64 net. Now is it source svc? Man, where did I put that? I have no idea where I put that. Libraries lib Mesosphere arm64 svc. Okay, it's in here. Yeah, I wrote this really complicated thing where for each kernel definition I instantiate a member of this table. And it is all compile time programming. Yeah, no, I expect the file system library to be a single file, or 3 files, depending. But okay, let's see how this works. If we are having this issue where svc get info is called, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to have this shared function for svc get info and svc get info 64 from 32. Let's call that results get info, and it's going to take 64t, let's use 64 I guess, out, ams svc info type, ams svc handle, and u64 info subtype. And this is just going to dispatch to this, return get info, subtype, and the same thing for 64 from 32. And with that said, Mesosphere panic, Actually, switch info type. Default. Zero panic. Info unimplemented info type percent D subtype percent. Actually, that'll be an LU because these are 64-bit numbers. So type LU, pass in cast 64 info type info subtype. It's also, we don't need the handle. The handle's fine. Oh, right. Sorry, I totally forgot that I need to make that not visible when I'm not doing that. Thank you, Fried Keenan. I would not have remembered to do that. Okay. And I don't know what getInfo is being called right now. And so I'm just going to build this and we'll verify that it works. First thing to do is going to be turn my switch into RCM so that we can build this. Let's see, where's the terminal window for this? Okay. CD mesosphere. Let's connect this. Make J16 and copy mesosphere.bin e atmosphere kernel.bin. Yeah, sorry, I am not that good. I mean, I wasn't really looking as I was typing, but I'm not that good. And I expect, I am planning on streaming developments for most of the system call work, if not all of the system call work. So especially over the next few weeks, you will probably see me doing this, build the kernel, it takes like 20 or 30 seconds to link, see where it's panicking, implement stuff so that it doesn't panic, and then repeat. And I am hoping that we will get into a cycle that is good for that. Okay, and then let's run switch again. Let's make the commands window visible. Because I don't actually know what info is being gotten. Okay, I think that is probably just it being a spotty Bluetooth connection again. I think I remember having to do like Control-T, Control-Q repeatedly when I was doing this before, so I'm not too worried about that. What is the state of your facial hair? I don't have facial hair. I am clean shaven. I really don't like facial hair, and I shave every day. We're still getting spotty output, which really shouldn't be happening. I guess I will move my switch closer again to the Bluetooth device, since I think that made a difference last time. It's annoying. Hopefully I will find some way to resolve this in the longer term where I'm trying to develop stuff. There we go. Yeah, moving it closer did in fact help. Man, Bluetooth is just not a great protocol. Implemented info type 1.6. That seems fake. I don't think info type should be nearly that big. Oh, no, wait. Actually, let me put that in hex. That might be like a correct number in hex. Right, it's in the host. Wow, it's going to take some getting used to in that. This is how I do this, by the way. Let's do Python %x %, and then let me copy that from the host. I should move that over so that I can just click on it. Nope, that seems wrong. Okay. I am pretty sure pretty sure that I implemented my ABI for translating these correctly. Does Python 2 not have hex? I don't know if Python 2 has hex, but I don't use hex anyway, so it's not like it matters. Although I wonder, let me look at the Mesosphere Panic definition to make sure that I didn't mess that up either. Include Kern Panic is where I did that. Mesosphere Panic is ams Kern Panic. File line vargs. Yep. Panic is format ... That should be totally fine. Do you occasionally play something on the Switch, or just develop stuff? Yeah, it kind of looks like the arguments are shifted by one register. That's what I'm thinking too, Finks. I can't believe I'm saying this. Let me open up my kernel in IDA and just take a look at the SVC just to check that it's not like just check if it's a printing problem or an output problem. Let me make the IDA window smaller. And then open up a new window. Atmosphere, Mesosphere, kernel, load it in. This is how I debug my programs, is I load my own programs in IDA. Yep. I absolutely believe that the arguments could be shifted by one register somehow. Let me see if I just did that wrong. Kern SVC Panic. Let me look at the implementation of that because it'll be in a Kern debug string or debug. Nope, that's an SVC. Kern panic.cpp. When I panic, I do this and this, and then I do format VL. That should be totally fine. That's just an S and printf, so that should be totally fine. Okay. Yeah, Mesosphere takes forever to load into IDA, which is always annoying. Hold the stick in before you press sync and release it immediately after. Okay, I will try that. Get info. Or get info, rather. Yeah. Call. What is our ABI doing? It is storing x1 and moving the stack pointer into x0. And that should be right because that's that. Okay, this is optimized this into out info type. That would explain it, but I didn't mean to do that. Why is it optimizing it that way? It looks like it is calling panic with x0 unmodified as out instead of subtype, and that is definitely not what I'm trying to do. Huh. Why would it be doing that? The arguments are shifted by one. We can see that in the assembly, but I don't understand how that would happen. Is this LTO finally getting the best of me? Right, because I'm casting info type. I don't understand how it would possibly return this output register. Right, the kernel panic macro does file line. Oh. vargs. That would explain it. I think that would explain it. Although, maybe not. This still doesn't make a ton of sense. Let me build this with that change and see if it gets it working. And we'll just load it in IDA again. But really, you'd think info type should be coming in x1. Move x1 into x2. Oh no, wait. Yeah, move x3. W3 will be the first register that contains the type. And it's moving W0 in there instead. Which doesn't make sense. Man, it is going to be such an enormous pain to debug this if it just puts the wrong things into registers. Like, I'm not going crazy. That definitely is casting the thing that I want to cast. I mean, I can add a case. Let me actually pull up the proper info type enum for that. But, man, that's super spooky. I really don't like that. Oh, right. It won't compile if I have that problem. Yeah, no, I am pretty confident that this is correct. So it's really surprising to me that it's putting the wrong value in the register. Or like maybe that fixes it, but I don't think it should matter. Maybe let's add a mesosphere log get info %p %u %u %lu. It's called. And that'll be out static cast u30t info type static cast u32 handle info subtype. Let's add that, and then let's make this a sphere unreachable default case, which is this is a macro that we have for just default abort basically. So let's build that. And then we will look at the elf and Ida beforehand this time and hope that it works. Although actually, let's look at the, never mind, too late. Maybe it didn't fix the panic problem, but if log works, I can use log and then panic separately. And I am absolutely willing to work around panic being broken by using logs. That is a-okay with me. Okay, let's load this into IDA. Man, that's so weird. You know, I should probably stop loading the dwarf info because I don't actually need it for this kind of stuff, and it would probably make loading it a lot faster, but it's too late this time. I know that what I'm doing is probably pretty intense in terms of level of complication. Does anyone have any questions about what I'm doing or would like to know more about something specific that I'm doing? I am totally happy to explain things, especially because there's a lot of downtime with the compiling, etc. I just tried the stream. Why do we care about this funk? We care about this because it is, if I make this visible again, where the kernel is panicking. We can see that the kernel is getting to the point where some process is calling svc get info, and we want to implement it so that it doesn't panic and we get a little further. Okay. Let's see. Get info. 64. Calling this without info type handle and info subtype. Okay, so that is doing the call correctly. Okay, we'll work with that. That is good enough. No, this is not unicorn emulation. I'm actually running the kernel on hardware. Yeah, so let's copy this to the SD card. And then let's run it again. It's not GDB, it's actually this uart setup that I did in the first part of the stream. But it's like, we will have GDB eventually. Yes, Fried Keenan, that is exactly what a kernel panic is. Thank you for being so in the know. I really appreciate when my viewers can explain things for me. Okay, it looks like we are getting it with 12, and that I know is going to be in like the current process handle or something. Let's check that. This is probably F0001, which is like the current process thing. X% that. Yep, that is the pseudo handle for the current process. Yeah, the SD card will be fine. You know, it'll live. I am not so concerned about that. Okay. So let me also pull up my kernel database that we can actually implement this correctly. Restore packed base. So this is my actual database for the kernel for 9.0, which is what I'm implementing stuff based off of right now. Let's go to get info, info 64, get info, and here we go. Let me pull up the info subtypes because I don't have all of the numbers memorized. And that'll be in atmosphere, libraries, and vapors include. Vapors SVC, SVC types common, it'll be info type. Yeah. So 12 means it is trying to get the ASLR region address and the ASLR region size. Why don't you just print it in hex? Oh yeah, that's a fair point. My printf does support that. I actually went really overboard. I went really overboard in implementing the printf, and we have a fully featured printf that can do all of the fancy formatters. That's a good call. Thank you. Okay, so it's ASLR, and what does this do? This is ASLR region address. Okay, it gets the ASLR region from the page table. That makes sense. Yeah. ASLR region. Oh, interesting that it is actually getting what I call the module code and transfer memory region. That is super interesting. I guess what we call ASLR region is actually like the process region. So we are going to want to do is we are going to want to like basically add a getter for the ASLR region, well, rather the code region, to our page table. So let's look at my process structure. We go here. The process has a page table. The process page table has just a kpage table member, but that'll probably want to actually be something kpage table base. So I'll open that while I'm here with the page table base, and then we're also going to want to open up the architecture specific process page table. And this is how the actual page tables are implemented, is this fancy base structure that is all of these fancy semantics. And so it looks like I actually expose a lot of this already. What did I call the module code and transfer memory? I think I called it code and alias code. Let me see. I think that's right. What offset is this at? Is it 0x60? Okay, so 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Yeah, okay. That'll be the code region start. Although actually, let me jump to xref globally. Yeah, that's fine. Let me see where this is initialized just so that I can be sure, because I don't want to use the wrong member. While I'm at it, let me open up the source for page table base, which is what sets this up. So it'll be in source, kern, kpage table base. Yeah, code region is where we get this. This will probably be done soon. So this global xref thing is a feature in newer IDA that lets you see all of the places where something is referenced. I need to do a bunch of decompilation beforehand, but that's a one-time cost, and it's a lot faster in future times that you use it. So this will be done pretty soon. Yes, initialize for process. Module code and transfer memory start is code map region start. Yep. Okay. Static code is 70. Okay, so this is actually the alias code region, which makes sense. That absolutely makes sense. And I bet if I look to my thing where I say what goes where, It's in the source code. Yes. Get region address, module code, and transfer memory goes to the alias code region. So that's what we want. We want the alias code region. So let's add a getter for that. Address get alias code region. Start const. Turn this alias code region start. Then let's add a getter for the size. Get alias code region size const. Turn this alias code region end minus this alias code region start. Okay, so that should be that. And then we're going to want to add this getter here too, where we have process address get alias code region start const return this page table get alias code region start, and same thing here where we're going to add a getter for the size. Get alias code region size const return this page table get alias code region size. Okay, and then if we go to SVC info, we want to add a case for info type process, and I don't remember exactly what that was. Okay, case SVC type ASLR region address. And let's also support the size while we're at it, just in case. That'll be easy. SVC info type ASLR region address. And we need to support both the current process and the like sudo handle process. But we know that this is going to be subtype 0 for this. Let me actually check on switchbrew just to be sure. I know switchbrew has information on this. Get info type. Yeah, it is for parameter 0 that it supports getting this ASLR region. Okay, let's double check that that looks right. Switch. Let's go back to get info. For all of these, if the info subtype, it's return invalid combination. Got it, that makes sense. And then we want to get the process from the handle. Okay. And then we want to, yep. And this is going to do a decrement, yeah. Okay. So that's easy enough to implement. The way that we're going to implement this info subtype thing is unless info subtype is 0. AMS or SVC results invalid combination. These info types don't support specific non-zero subtypes. And then you're going to want to actually make this in a thing just so that it's better. Go ahead and do this, and then we'll add a break statement at the end. Get the process, its handle. I'm gonna look up what the API is again because it's been a while for how I did kernel handle table stuff. I called it scoped get object. Yep. Okay. Where was the SVC file? It's over here. Auto process, or actually, okay, scoped auto object process is get current process dot get handle table dot get object okay process. And then what result is returned if the process isn't valid? Return result valid handle, of course. Unless process putter SVC result invalid handle. Okay, and then we want to presumably switch on the subtype. Yep. Switch subtype. Let's copy in these cases. Oh wait, no wait, we already know it's 0. We want to switch to the info type. Said the wrong thing. And in the ASLR region case, we want to do return process get page table. Does that return a reference or a returns a reference? Okay. Get page table dot get alias code region start. Oh wait, I don't actually want to do that. I want to do out equals. Same thing here. Get alias code region size. Let's also add a on scope exit sphere log returned percent 16 LX. Oh. Okay, I think that should work. Let's see if it does. And while this is building, I will get the VM hooked up. Or, not the VM hooked up. I will get the SD card hooked up to the VM. And of course it doesn't compile, because it never compiles. So where did I mess this up? Alright, that should be a star out. But, enumeration not handled in switch. Oh, right. This also needs a mesosphere unreachable default case. Okay, let's try that again. Unscope exit, control reaches void. Oh, right. Return result, success. You know, I swear, you would think that I would be better at this. This would be get integer, right? No result for operator equals kscoped auto object. How did I implement kscoped auto object again? It'll be in kautoobject.hpp. Auto object is not null. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. S dot is not null. Okay. Just happy this sort of thing doesn't happen to you. Yeah, so that kind of issue where I fight with the compiler for a minute or two happens every time I ever write code, because I am, and I know that this will sound weird coming from me, really not a very good programmer. I mean, I'm good at writing lots of code, and I'm good at writing code that works after a couple of tries, but I never, ever get anything to compile the first time that I write it. I am deeply suspicious if what I write compiles the first time that I try to run it. Okay, then let's make the command output visible again. Let's run it. Yeah, it's maybe true that that's true for all programmers. Unreachable default case entered. Interesting. Okay. That was not expected. But also it looks like some output got cut off. And so I'm probably gonna have to run it again. Man, it kind of sucks that the output is so unreliable for this. Right, because probably what happened is it logged it succeeding for a couple things, and then it tried to get a different info type, and that one failed. Deer didn't tell me to do anything that would affect the reliability of the logging. I've sometimes had some success doing that, where I disconnect and reconnect it and then get better output. So let's see if that helps. Yeah, okay. We get much better output then. Yeah, okay. It looks like the region base is 60,000. The address, the size is that, which makes sense. And then it tries to get a different type, which is 14. Okay. What is 14? It's probably another size if I look at this. Yeah, it's probably the heap region. Heap region start, heap region size. That makes a lot of sense. I am not so surprised that that's what it's getting next. This is actually probably libnx getting the extensive memory so that it knows how to set up virtual memory. Like, actually, I am almost entirely certain that this is libnx in my system modules setting things up. So let's go to types common again. And yeah, it's 14 is actually the stack region. Okay, that makes sense. And 4 and 5 are the heap region. I will probably just implement all of these in one go because there's no reason for them to not be done all in one go. Yes, SVC, info type, stack region address, stack region size. I'll also do the heap region now. And what other addresses are there? There's... Actually, it looks like that is it for the address and size stuff. Okay. So let's add these, tap them in, add breaks. And add these here too. Stack region address, stack region size. It's gonna wanna do get heap region start. It's gonna wanna do get heap region size. And it'll probably not compile, but it's not impossible that I already have these wrappers added. So we're gonna at least try that first. Also, actually, I probably don't want to return unreachable default case. I don't want to like abort in the case that that's wrong. I want to return an error code. So let's do that too. Where we do, okay, it's result invalid combination is almost certainly what it's going to return for the wrong subtype. Default, go to label 95. Oh no, it does panic. Really? Does it really panic if you send the wrong info subtype? That would really surprise me. Oh, it's probably because it got past the first check. Can I specify the error code? Yeah, I have full control over what this is going to return. Okay, let's see where the default case is. Resource limit, dial to count. Default, if info type, oh, we processed the result earlier. Result is invalid enum value. Okay, that makes sense. Defaults, return SVC results invalid enum value. Okay, will this compile? Probably not. Oh, okay, it does compile. That really surprises me. I guess I already had those wrappers. Yeah, I'm deeply suspicious of this. Like, very, very deeply suspicious of this. But it's not impossible that I wrote code that does the right thing. That can happen, theoretically. And so maybe it will. Okay. Let's go ahead And run this again. Yes, okay. Query process memory has been called, and we're calling into the secure monitor. Right, because atmosphere, get info 2 was called, and we returned 2. 2 does not seem right for any value. What is 2? Oh, wait, right. It's going to be returning an error code for that. And this is probably it panicking by talking to Exosphere. That's really deeply funny, actually. Okay, what is info type 2? Info type 2 is the alias region. Wow, I completely missed that when I said I was going to do all of these. That's... How did I miss that? Alias region address. Alias, and let's just double check that it's returning the thing that I think it's returning. Yeah, okay, it's the alias region. Let me see, page table base, do I expose that? Return alias region, I do. Okay. Turn alias region start. We will have to implement talking to the secure monitor, but it can wait until after we have done this. Nope, that's the wrong one. I want alias right here. Okay, and then we can theoretically start this building again. And it is still crazy to me that that just worked. That is actually super crazy to me. Also, I will move this over more to the left. Sorry that the kernel takes so long to link. I expect that these streams that I will be doing in the next couple of weeks will be a lot of us waiting for the kernel to link. Yeah, no, my code working and me not understanding how I wrote code that works is very, very much what's happening. I'm happy about it, but it surprises me. Okay. Let's run this again. Atmosphere is running. Thank you, Murdy. I appreciate it. Assuming that's a compliment. It might be an insult. Yeah, okay. It looks like it queries more things. Query process memory was called. I'm pretty confident about query process memory. This looks significantly more correct to me. 12, 13, 14, 15, 4, 5, 2, 3, all returning regions and sizes. Okay. I am comfortable with saying for now that that is functioning. And it's calling secure monitor, and it's not impossible that that actually is the secure monitor being done. Although maybe query process memory is failing. Let's check that. Source, SVC. Do I have a query memory implemented? Let me check that. That's at that's in SVC query memory. So auto is not null. Turn out memory info. Yep. And let's. Do we need to log that? No, I don't necessarily think that we do. I think it's okay if we don't log that. Oh, yeah, no, this is definitely going to be getting the Exosphere API version. Because, like, the very first thing that my system modules do is they talk to the secure monitor and they say, what version of Atmosphere are we running? So I'm going to need to do that. Okay. SVC, I think it's in SVC secure monitor call. Man, I really wanted to call this SVC Lenny.cpp, but I was convinced that that was probably not the right choice of name. I'm going to be calling a case system control function, so that's going to be in here. Let me see. Case system control. Do I already have a wrapper for that? No, there's no way I do. I might have the function prototype, but I definitely won't have the actual wrapper. I mean, what we're basically going to want to do is we are going to want to... Here, I'll add this. Results, These are different types, so there's no point in doing from 32 right now. This is just basically going to be do system control call secure monitor, and I might want from user. I know that I have from privileged or for kernel in here somewhere. Go to the includes board Nintendo NX current system control. Do I have it there? No, probably not. Okay. Yeah, I'll add it down here. User access. Static void. Call secure monitor from user. And this is going to be 64-bit SVC secure monitor arguments. Yep. Okay. Turn this with args. And we can deal with 64 from 32 later if we ever actually deal with it, because we don't really need to. And let's copy this. Rather copy that. Make this void system control. And this does address translation, because the first member of these arguments is going to be what do I want to say? The first member of these arguments is a function ID for the secure monitor call. That's what I was looking for. If I look here, there are all of these function IDs that'll be in this. But I don't think we actually need to add an enum for them, because I believe, and I could be wrong about this, that the only thing that we actually need to parse is going to be the bits that determine whether an argument is a pointer or not. So let's take a look at what it does in IDA. Secure monitor 64. Yeah. Okay, this is basically initializing page stuff. Okay. And yeah, that makes sense. Okay. If bit 0x200 is set, that makes sense. It's going to map stuff in here. This is actually going to be a map page group type of function. That makes sense. Yeah, it's going to do the 7 times, once for each bit. And then it's going to close this. This is 7 K page groups. So let me go ahead and look at my K page group class. Include mesosphere K page group. Group and yep, that makes sense. Okay. How do I want to do this? Function ID is arg0. Okay, see your fight, Keenan. I hope you enjoyed. Do I want this to be an array? Or do I want it to be just a normal array? Yeah, it's fine. Okay, let's also const auto page table is get current process dot get page table, and we want that to be a reference. And then auto lock info manager. It's gonna be, I think it's just dot get block info manager, but I don't remember if that returns a block info manager. Yeah, it returns a pointer. Okay, so that'll work. Also, these don't need to be const. And we'll just call this bim, because that'll make it much shorter. Page table get block info manager. And to initialize this like this, we're gonna need page group bim, and we're just gonna need to do that like 7 times. It's a little silly, but I'm not sure if there's a way to initialize all members of a standard array with the same arguments, but this at least should work, I believe. Also, I need to unmap the arguments so you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay, that should be better for you guys, I think. And then for ti is 0, I is less than max mapped registers, plus plus. If function ID at 1 should shift left by I plus 9 is the first bit that does this. Then we need to nap stuff. And in that case, we're going to have process address word editor is Joey Stokes says, hi, how to debug kernel with GUI. We don't have a graphical interface for debugging the kernel. I'm having to debug it the hard way, where we get like serial output from uart, and I do it that way. Word editor is args I plus 1, and that should be fine, I believe. Page group's destructor should automatically finalize anything that we close, or anything that we open should, but it should be fine. And then what we need to do is we basically need to map it in. And the way that's happening is it's taking this argument and it's calling this page table function, which is going to basically AND it with the page size to get the actual page. And then this is, it's going to map it with read write, although I don't have a define for this, I guess. Do I not? No, I don't. Okay, this will be k page table create new page group. This will be taking the page table. This will be a page group. These are the same arguments as usual. So here it's locking the page table's mutex. It's checking the memory state. It's calling make page group, and then it's calling open, and then it's calling unlock. So that is super straightforward, actually. That, at least, we can basically just implement the easy way. And for those who are looking at kernel output in IDA for the first time, what you will note is that this is an inlined lock of this mutex. Nintendo's code always inlines all of this lock code. This is a function that I have implemented already. This is a function that I already have implemented. It'll be super easy to do this. Awesome. Okay. And then I guess we also want to track bools what was opened. Actually, let me check something. If the page group class is fine to just close everything, then we can just close everything, and that'll be significantly simpler. Close. Yeah, so this will actually iterate over it, and so we can just close it without having to track what's open. So here, down here at the end, we're going to want to do for size t I is 0, I is less than max memory registers, I plus plus, page groups, I dot close. Let's be, make sure that we close any pages that we opened. Okay, so this is, let me jump back here. Make an open new page group. Got it. Or create an open new page group. Why not use a proper C++ code editor? You know, that's not a bad question. The answer is I prefer Notepad++. Like Visual Studio Code, CLion, all those IDEs, they crash with the number of files that I tend to have open at any given time. And so I am genuinely better off just doing it this way. And this will be, what does it do on failure? If it fails, it doesn't actually panic, it just sets it equal to 0, which is an odd thing to do, but okay. If R succeeded, page table dot create and open page group. Wow, really failing at the typing here. Else args I plus 1. That's a lot more natural. Args registry equals 0. If we map and if it succeeds, then it does like a linear translation, it looks like. That's interesting because it's gonna need to know what address it's in the page group, isn't it? A1 last. Oh, I guess because it's the new one, you can optimize. It's the last entry, you can optimize that out. These are all new page groups, so that should actually just work. And so we can actually do dot begin to get that. Nice. That's actually a nice optimization. That's cool. Const auto it is page group I dot begin. Just to a physical address. And if we're going to do this optimization, what we want to do is we want to be sure that this iterator has, there's only one iterator, so it's not equal to the end, and it has exactly one page in it because we're mapping one page. Sphere certs it is not equal to page I dot end. Sphere asserts it, what did I call that? Get num pages. Get num pages is 1. And if that's true, then what we want to do is we want to do okay, physical address Satter is, what is the translation func called? It's a member of kpage table base, but I don't remember what I called it. I think it's like get heap physical address. Probably is. get heap physical address. Yeah, that's it. Page table dot get heap physical address of t get address. And then what we want to do is we want to say that args register ID, or I go to args I. No, it is args register ID. ID is integer is adder void with integer for adder at page size -1. Okay. That, I believe, should do translation, but then we need to actually pass the arguments to the page group function. So let's pull over the page table base header again, because we're going to be working on that. Pull over the source too, so that we can add function to it. What got you into this project? I really love Nintendo, and I love the Switch, and I wanted to hack Pokemon. I got into console hacking because I really want to hack Pokemon. Working on PK Hex was how I learned how to program. Yes, I know that's pretty silly. But in like 2014, I saw an article on Smogon about how people had used Wireshark to dump packets containing Pokemon out of the air, and I thought, wow, that's really cool. I would really like to know how to do that. And so because of that, I just got really into it, and then I developed a taste for like operating systems development from that. What kernel is this? This is the Nintendo Switch's kernel, Alpha Omega Programmer. I am implementing the kernel for the Nintendo Switch, and we are running it on hardware. Result, create an open page group, right? That's what I called that. Yes, this is all from scratch, using a reverse engineered copy of the kernel that I have labeled by hand. All of this is done by my hands. Create an open page group. What are the arguments? The output is a page group. Page group out. How did you get a copy of the kernel? We have an exploit for the Nintendo Switch that allows us to take control of the processor at boot time. And so, because I have developed exploits for the Nintendo Switch, when the Nintendo Switch was released, I sunk a ton of time into trying to hack it, and I found exploits that allow us to have full control over the hardware. And using those, we can dump the encryption keys that it uses to encrypt the kernel, and then I just dump it to the SD card. I hope that answers that question. I know that's kind of vague and high level, but it's probably the best answer I can give for that kind of thing. Cool. Address, size T. Is this number of pages? Yeah, it absolutely is. Pages, that makes sense. It's almost always num pages. And then all of these page group functions always take in like the same thing, where they will like take in a mask of permissions, or these are the permissions rather. They'll take in a mask for the state, a mask for the state itself, a mask for the permissions itself, a mask for the attributes, and then the attributes themselves. That's like a super common pattern for this kind of function. You can see U32 state mask, U32 state, U30 perm mask. Yeah, there it is. So let's go ahead and add that. And we're also going to want this function in the process page table header, because this is a function that we can call from the process stuff, from the process page table. So let's go ahead and add that. return this page table dot create an open page group out address on pages state mask state perm mask perm atcher mask atcher. Okay. Then let's grab this and we will implement this. I'm sure it'll not be too bad. Unmap page group is what it's after. This is a page table base. And the first thing that it's going to do is it's going to, well, first it's going to validate the address falls within the address space, which makes sense. Did you get a CS degree? No, I do not have a degree in CS. This is entirely hobby stuff for me. I think I have a help for that. Let me check if I have a helper for that. This will be address space start. Contains, yeah. If this contains address space and size. Yep. Okay. So make sure that the region mapping is valid for the table. Or unless this contains address, and that takes a size, I think, not a number of pages, so we'll need to multiply by page size. Which, yep, it's multiplying by page size. Pages times page size. Let's actually cache that variable just in case we need it again later. Pages times page size. Address size. What result is it? It is result invalid current memory state. So you see results invalid current memory. I will elect not to answer what college I went to. I am not in college, but for operational security reasons, I will avoid mentioning that. But I went to a very, very good college on the West Coast, I will say. I mean, I've made public that I am in the Pacific time zone. And I attended a very good private university on the West Coast. Next thing that we're going to do is we're going to lock this, lock the table. Okay. And the next thing that we're going to want to do make your programmers does make sense you don't want to breach OPSEC, but I'm curious how I can find colleges that teach kernel dev. I don't know there were any. I have no idea if colleges teach kernel dev. I did not learn this in college. Like, all of this hacking stuff is just entirely self-taught, which I know is crazy, but is also just a relic of my spending so much time on this. Like, I spend a couple hours every day working on this stuff, and I have done that for almost 6 years now. And so I have just put in my 10,000 hours in terms of gaining experience. Let's see, what flag is that? 0x40,000 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so that's bit 20, plus 2 is bit 22. Is that right? 12. Oh no, wait, that's actually bit 23, right? Because this starts at 0. 4. 0, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 21, 22. Flag reference counted. Okay, so it is flag reference counted. I may also like assign all of these that these variables aren't so awful. All right, let's leave this. Let me name these. We got variable. Let's leave this. This will be out. It returns a result, and then 64. Keyword address. address, keyword, pages, dword, state mask, dword state, dword perm mask, dword perm, dword atcher mask, dword atcher. And that should make a lot of this a lot more bearable. So let's, it's the same thing as state. That's fine. I know that these are the same. Perm mask. This is perm. B16 I want to map to size. Oh, did I just map these to the wrong things and like ruin their names? No, I did that right. Okay. 337. Oh yeah, sorry about the railroad noises. I live near a railroad. Atcher mask, and what is this? V26. Oh, that's like the current thread. K core local region. Yeah, that's just the tag that's being written into the mutex. Okay. And then we are going to check the memory state, and we're going to have to or the flags with flag reference counted. Okay. So check if the state allows us to create the group. And this is going to be address size. It doesn't look like it's memory state at all. It's state mask or k memory state flag reference counted. Is that right? Yeah, that is right. Then state or that flag. And I think it's not checking. It is checking the perm mask and the atcher mask. Okay. Perm mask, perm. Atcher mask, atcher. And I think that should be it. That 6 is like a default because there's actually multiple check memory state. Where check memory states, if you like don't pass the last one, it's default memory ignore attributes, and I'm pretty sure that's the correct value. So that'll be that. And rtry is a macro that says this is going to return a result. Try it. If it fails, then just return immediately. And so this is like an early return macro that I use to avoid having explicit results in my code. And then we want to try to create the page group. Did I do that? Page group impl. Did I do that? Looks like I might not actually have make page group impl, which should be pretty funny. How are you testing the code to know that it's correct? Well, in the ideal case, it is correct because I am, translating from what the actual kernel does into this IDA code. But what page groups did I do? Allocated map pages impl, make page group. Oh, I did do make page group. I just didn't add the impl here. But I am testing it by running it on hardware, and I have setup so that I get uart output, which is what I set up in the first part of the stream. And like the reason that I'm implementing this secure monitor call system call is because the last time that I ran it on hardware, it panicked after calling into SVC call secure monitor. So we are implementing SVC call secure monitor right now. And if it's wrong on hardware, hopefully my assertions will catch it, or we'll just see that it returns a failure, and that'll allow me to debug. Does this do what I want it to do? I think it does do what I want it to do. Make page group. Yeah, no, this is what I wanted to do. This is absolutely the function that I was looking for. Okay. I'm gonna do YouTube for the region. Try this make page group. Now if I called it make, then I should call this make. It's important to be consistent. Where is the process page table header? Because I'm going to need to change that here, there too. Okay. Let's make page group. What are the arguments to that? It is passing this out and then the address and the size. Got it. That's straightforward. Miss make page group out address size. Double check that. Make a page group is, oh, it's actually num pages. Got it. Okay. And then it is doing an open if it succeeds. New reference to pages in the group. All of the pages are reference counted. And so this will manage all of the memory automatically. Okay, I'm pretty sure that's a correct implementation of that function. And this unlock will happen automatically because we're using a scoped lock. Okay, back in here. Arguments are this, obviously, page group. Let's actually do auto page is, it'll make things a little simpler because then we can do this, we can do this. We can do, I think I prefer page I. Okay. Address of page I. Then get integer vert adder at, this is going to be, it's simpler. I have a macro for this, or not a macro, a helper function. Till a line down, get integer virtual address, page size. That'll do the right thing automatically. And then one page. And then it looks like memory permission is none, or the state mask is none, the state is none, and the permission that it checks is read write. And do I remember what those were called? No, I don't think so. But I know that that's memory state none, memory state none, memory permission user read write, memory permission user read write, memory attribute none, memory attribute none. And I think that should be right, actually. Okay. That's that. And this loop is just fully unrolled, but we're going to write it as a loop, and it should be totally good. This is actually going to be, like call secure monitor implementation. Let's pull this over. What did I call other SMCs? Yeah, okay. This will be SMC call secure monitor user. Yep, that makes sense. That absolutely makes sense. It is what I would expect. So let's add that. Call secure monitor. Did I use from or for here? Probably from. Okay. User. This is going to be U64 args. There's no need for me to. I can keep that, actually. This is fine. Why are we writing our own kernel? We are writing our own kernel because part of Atmosphere's goal as like the React OS of the Switch's operating system is to provide open source reference implementations of the various things that the Switch's kernel does. And so because we have done everything in the firmware package except for the file system library and the kernel, the next thing on my plate is the kernel. I love this kernel. I think that it is a really great design, and I really want really want people who want to understand how this works to be able to read my code and see how the kernel works. Yes, no return is a macro that just tags attribute no return. I use a lot of macros, which I know is contentious with some people. Call privilege secure monitor function. I think this is actually probably going to be basically exactly the same, except SMC 0. Call user secure monitor function. Yep. Pretty sure. SMC 0. Yeah, no, that is the same thing. Just SMC 0 instead of SMC 1. Cool. So let's do secure monitor arguments. Args is... Yeah. 0, x1, x2, 3, x4, x5, 6, arg7. Sorry you missed your explanation as to why you're writing a kernel. I'm doing it to give people a reference so that they can understand how the actual kernel that Nintendo wrote works. I really, really love Nintendo's... I just love Nintendo's kernel, and I want people who are interested in it to be able to see how it works. Also, I don't know why I did this way. I should absolutely just have this take in this, and then delete these, and that is a million times easier. And that way we don't make a stack copy. Have you ever needed to optimize your code? My code is optimized generally. Also, why did I cut that instead of copy it? Call user secure monitor function args. Okay, that should be that. This is only going to be reference. Do you want it to be practically used in place of the actual kernel? So for context, since I think you guys probably are not so familiar with the Switch, I write and maintain with a couple other people, github.com, Atmosphere NX. I maintain Atmosphere, which is a custom firmware. And it lets you run your homebrew code on the console, and it re-implements a ton of different things. These are all different system modules, which are user processes. Hey, Chris, 0x7CB. For the Switch that we have re-implemented in C++. And we have an implementation of their secure monitor, which we call Exosphere. But absolutely, this is intended to be practical to use in place of the actual kernel. I intend to be running this instead of Nintendo's kernel on my hardware in my day-to-day usage of my Switch in the future. I'm not using IDE instead of Notepad because Notepad++ does not crash when I open up hundreds of files, and I tend to open up hundreds of files. Yeah, it's a big project, but it's what I love. I really love working on it, and, you know, it's what I enjoy. And I think that Nintendo's operating system is really, really well designed, and I want more people to be able to look at it and understand how it works. How complete is Atmosphere? In the grand scheme of things, it is not so complete. Atmosphere works well enough for people who want to like mess around with homebrew and run their own code. My current goal, because the operating system, I'm only one person, is too big for me to do all of. My current goal, I will be happy if we have everything in the boot image package. And the boot image package is the separate two pieces, package 1 and package 2. Is it really so that if your Switch is unpatched, you can use RCM to load payload and then work my way to boot Atmosphere, even my firmware is on the latest? Yes. If your Switch is not patched, you can run Atmosphere on it. But package 1 contains their secure monitor code, their trust zone code, and their bootloader, and we have implemented both of those. And package 2 has their kernel and their what we call their firm system modules, or their built-in system modules. And their built-in system modules are, I'm just going to look at this because it's a cheat sheet, are boot, which sets up hardware, loader, which is responsible for loading new processes and verifying that new processes conform to their formats. NCM, Nintendo Content Manager, keeps tracks of what programs are installed where. PM, or Process Manager, which manages processes. The kernel does not actually provide information on the user processes. It's all managed by the Process Manager, which runs in user land. It's a microkernel, and so a lot of things that you might traditionally think would be in the kernel are actually in user space. Hey, Valiant Stormed, glad you didn't totally miss it either. Their SM is their Service Manager. This is used to provide like capability-based access to the microservices that their operating system provides. Nintendo's operating system is based on this idea of microservices, where your process has a signature from Nintendo saying it can access some list of hard-coded services. And the OS is a bunch of different processes that provide these microservices. And if you want to open a file, you need to have access to the file system services, and you need to then provide the file system services with your process ID, which it uses to know what you have permission to do, and then you send the open file command, and it gives you back a handle to the file. And then this is Secure Platform Services, or SPL, and Secure Platform is responsible for marshalling communications between the other processes and the secure monitor. In our case, I give all of my processes access to the secure monitor because I use that to like tell them what version of Atmosphere they're running and provide a consistent API version to our implementations. And so the other built-in system module is FS, or File System Services. And that's huge, and so I'm going to do that last. I'm going to do that next year. That is a mid to late 2020/early 2021 project. We're going to do it, but it's not going to be for a while. What do you find so fascinating about the Switch kernel, and how different is it compared to the Linux or Windows kernel? It is completely different. The Switch is what's called a microkernel. In Windows or Linux, you have this idea of drivers, where drivers hook into the kernel, and drivers are kernel mode stuff that is managing lots of hardware. The microkernel idea says if it doesn't absolutely need to be in the kernel, you can put it in a user space process. And so the Switch kernel provides a tiny number of system calls, only exactly what's needed in order to run the operating system. Physical memory management needs to be done by the kernel, so that's done. Thread and process management needs to be done. Mapping and creation of like shared memory or events or other synchronization resources. You can basically separate it into debugging, memory management, synchronization, where synchronization is all of that. And then, like miscellaneous stuff, like cache management, access to devices. But it is all basically some kind of system control operation, some kind of debugging control operation, some kind of memory operation, or some kind of synchronization primitive. Stuff that has to be in the kernel. Everything else is in user mode. The GPU is managed by user mode, whereas in Windows or Linux, it's managed in the kernel. Microkernels are much more secure than non-microkernels. Having a small interface means that you have a small attack surface. I fundamentally believe, as someone who is implementing this kernel in C++, that Nintendo's kernel does not have security bugs. It is secure. Period. End of story. I am really confident in that fact as someone who has spent months of my life reversing it and understanding it and trudging through every single function and multiple versions of it to see what's changed. So there are huge security benefits. And also, having this microkernel means that everything is modular in user space. No, actually, Alpha Omega Programmer. I get the inclination to say that userland manages the GPU, then that can mean the attacker could access the GPU from user space. In the ideal world, you have capabilities. They're called capabilities in other operating systems, so I'm going to call them capabilities here. And the idea is that you say this process, which is signed by Nintendo, or signed by whoever owns the platform, can access this I/O and access, this amount of memory, etc. It has access to these services. It provides these services. It can access these resources. And so you say only one process can access the GPU. And that process is your GPU driver. Your GPU driver lives in userland. On a typical kernel, if someone finds a way to compromise the GPU driver will provide some API to other processes they can access. And in a normal kernel, if you compromise the GPU driver, you have kernel code execution. Everything is in kernel mode, so as soon as you compromise one thing in kernel mode, you've compromised the system. The kernel is only as strong as its weakest link, and that's true about the system in general. But with the microkernel design, if the GPU is in its own process, then if you compromise the GPU process, you can run code in the GPU process, you gain access to its system calls, and you can use the GPU, but that doesn't get you any kernel compromise, and that doesn't let you run unsigned code, etc., etc. There's a caveat here, which is NVIDIA is really bad at designing hardware, and the NVIDIA GPU can actually bypass the system memory management units. I consider that to be a hardware bug and not a kernel bug, though. And so on the Switch, compromising the GPU driver does let you compromise a lot more, but the kernel has what's called a carve-out region, a region of protected memory that even the GPU can't access. And so on the Switch, if you compromise the GPU driver, you can actually compromise user applications and like the home menu, but all of the other drivers, and the kernel itself are uncompromised. And so even compromising the GPU driver doesn't get you a lot. Yeah, no, Nintendo, this was actually first designed for the 3DS. If I go to 3D Brew SVC, Nintendo designed Horizon for the 3DS, and it did well there, but it had a lot of bugs. The 3DS version of Horizon is not nearly so good, but it's still fundamentally the same kernel. You can see that these system calls, create thread, exit thread, sleep thread, are basically the same. And for the Switch, they rewrote their entire operating system. They didn't fork it, they hard threw everything out and rewrote it, taking everything they learned from the security on the 3DS and rewriting it to be much better, and their kernel's bulletproof. It doesn't have security bugs. But to answer Jake's question about bug bounties, yes, Nintendo does have a bug bounty. Nintendo bug bounty. It's on HackerOne. And if you are interested in the operating system, you can find vulnerabilities and you can report them to Nintendo, and Nintendo will give you money for them. If you are interested in that kind of thing, you should do it. I have submitted bugs to Nintendo in the past, and I find that Nintendo is super pleasant to work with as a hacker. Like, they obviously put a lot of efforts into protecting their system, they put a lot of thought into engineering, and they are really... Honestly, they blow Sony out of the water in terms of hacker communications and hacker interfacing. I love Nintendo. I am a super big fan of Nintendo, and I really want them to succeed. They didn't fork the Linux kernel because the Linux kernel isn't secure, and the Linux kernel is monolithic. They designed this whole ecosystem. They have their own standard library, basically, that they have poured their heart into. They've designed it over the last decade, and it is bulletproof from a security perspective these days. And it's this awesome modern design. It throws out years of backwards compatibility in order to design something that actually works the way it should. And they have created a secure real-time operating system. And that's an awesome feat, and I really admire them for it. And it's why it's why Atmosphere is such a passion project and such a labor of love on my end, because I love their design and love the work that they have put in so much. But with that said, we should get back to writing code. I hope that explains my motivation some, and I hope that it's interesting. Invoke secure monitor. Honestly, Nintendo puts a crazy amount of effort into this. And I really, really respect how much effort they put into this. Nintendo puts more effort in than basically any other company that I know. They take security super seriously. Sorry again about drinking noises. I was just talking a lot and need to take a moment to drink tea. Okay, that is actually theoretically all of call secure monitor. Let's add some logging. Sphere log, call secure monitor, percent lx, 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 percent lx. Zero, args1, args2, args3, args4, args5, args6, args7. Did any of your papers get accepted into journals? I don't really try to publish in journals. I think that Plylect, after we like compromised the 3DS boot ROM, did a thing where he did that. But I have never tried to get stuff into a journal. Do you think that all monolithic kernels should be replaced in microkernels, or do monolithic have some advantages? So, I have strong opinions on this topic. Microkernels are better. Period. End of story. But from a practical perspective, the problem with microkernels is that you need to do a lot more inter-process communication. And inter-process communication means more system calls. And so more system calls means you take a speed hit. Microkernels will always be at a performance disadvantage compared to a monolithic kernel because they need to do more inter-process communication. Inter-process communication, or IPC, is the critical hot path for a microkernel. It needs to be as fast as possible. And it is my personal opinion that computers are fast enough these days that microkernels are better. Everyone should be running a microkernel. That's never going to happen because backwards compatibility and Unix and Unixisms just don't play well with secure microkernel models. But it's better. It's what people should be doing. But I understand the performance argument that performance is worse. Well, not worse. It's good. Performance is at a disadvantage in a microkernel compared to a monolithic one, and I understand that. The security and the modular design comes at the cost of having to do more system calls. I hope that is the nuanced answer. Log failed to map register %zu. I guess this is really arguments. %zu register ID. This will be log mapped our %zu reg ID. I will probably end up deleting a bunch of these logs afterwards. So there's no way any of this compiles. So let's start compiling it. It's really interesting that we are getting so many people tonight who are not familiar with the switch. Okay, page table base failed. Just make page group. Does that take a reference? Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, no, it's the architectural design is strictly superior for the microkernel, but the additional IPC has its cost. Oh boy. Yeah, okay. Where's this failing? Oh, right. This is because this is like this custom type. Okay, that's annoying. It's annoying because this is just logging, isn't it? And this is literally just, it'll do the right thing, but it just doesn't know that it's the right thing. Okay. What is my type definition for that, actually? Yeah, no, I'm glad that the answer is useful to you, and I like talking about this stuff. And yeah, bearded squid. All of the most critical stuff you have to write in assembly. Although, and this is actually interesting to people who don't do a lot of this, C++ with const expert or compile time stuff used to the maximum extent is often more optimized than equivalent C. C++ is an awesome language for doing really, really efficient low-level stuff. And I find that writing C++ with like compile time magic is often faster than the C I would write. It's not faster than the assembly I would write, but it's better than the C I would write. Types privileged. No, is it really in types common? Guess it is. Oh, right. Got it. That makes sense. Okay. Well, I'm doing this in C++ because Nintendo did it in C++, and in what should be a surprise to nobody, the best language to represent C++ is C++. Like, the natural expression... Actually, let me take a step back. Nintendo's kernel is designed around C++ objects. It uses C++ scoping semantics for reference counting. It uses constructors, it uses destructors. Their kernel is based around C++ objects and RAI to avoid like failure to clean up resources. And because their kernel is C++, I am writing this in C++. It only makes sense to implement C++ code in C++ code. Okay, where was that? System control. .r, and then I probably need to do that everywhere I do that. .r, where else do I use args? .r, .r, .r. Then I can just copy paste this here, since we're logging the same thing again. There's a failure at copying that. Yeah, RAII is resource acquisition is initialization. It is a concept in C++ where you use constructors and destructors to tie your acquisition of a resource to your initialization of it. And then if you acquire a resource in the constructor of an object and release it in the destructor of an object, because C++ guarantees that destructors will run after constructors, Switch is less than PS4 plus Xbox. I completely disagree, Ninium, although I suspect you're probably a troll. The Switch is, one, doing ridiculously successful. Two, it is the only console that is running this kind of secure custom operating system. PS4 uses FreeBSD, Xbox uses Windows. Nintendo is the only player in the space that is doing all of these wild, inventive things with operating systems. And so I just disagree with you that they are at all comparable. Where is the for user function? Args, it actually be args.r. Should actually be args-r. Oh, I replaced the wrong one, didn't I? That's pretty funny. That is pretty funny. Yeah, I've been doing this for a really long time. Like a really, really long time. Let me fix this. Let's be args.x. Let's be args.x. Let's be args-r. Let's be args-r. Also, I'm going to need to change the .r's and the other thing too. Yeah, I also disagree that the Switch I agree completely with what Bearded Squid just said, that the Switch as a portable system is in a completely different space from the other two. Like, at this point, the PS4 and the Xbox are competing against each other, and Nintendo just kind of does their own thing, and I think it's awesome. I think Nintendo has done a really good job of carving out this space for themselves where they are not really competing with Microsoft or Sony. Yeah, okay, this should be args-r. Args-r. I think I want that to be a. Look at that. Then let's replace all of these. Cool. Okay, maybe that compiles now. Does November git block info manager. Right, because it's a process page table, isn't it? Okay, so I need to expose that. And we will do this and it'll be over here. I must have gone past it. We'll do this stupid way. We will do block info manager, git block info manager, return this page table, git block info manager. And I renamed it to make an open page group too. Yeah, coronavirus has been a big thing. I am actually sick at the moment. I don't think it's coronavirus, but I am sick. Address of page groups I. Okay. That'll happen too. Anything else? Git heap physical address. Right, process page table also needs that. And that's going to be k physical address, git heap physical address, k process address, enter. Return this page table dot git heap physical address. Let's see. Is that const? I feel like that's const, but I don't want to mark this const and then I have it be an error. That'd be super annoying. Git heap physical address. In fact, it is a static method. So I feel like we can definitely make it const. Sorry, Sim gets coronavirus, but doesn't have its most identifiable symptom because he's a genetic freak. Yeah, my genetics are lucky in a lot of ways. It takes in a virtual address. Man, that's really annoying. Okay. I guess I will just do git integer address to do a better way to convert address type. And that'll be fine. And it is const. Okay. Or it is protected, rather. I guess git block info manager is going to need to be public. So let me make that public. Or rather, what I probably want to do is I probably want to make it public in the kpage table. Man, you must feel like a god having so much low-level experience. Does it kind of feel that way? You know, actually, I get asked questions like, what's it like to be so familiar with low-level stuff? And it's like, I don't feel like I'm that familiar with low-level stuff. Like, this is a hobby. This is just my hobby. I have poured 4 to 6 hours of my life into it every day since February of 2014. And I don't feel like I'm that good at it. But I know that's objectively false, because I do a lot of really good things. But, you know, it's the internal state of having the experience that I have is not, I think, no, I don't want to expose that there, is not, I think, what you might imagine it being like. I have built up all of this experience and all of this intuition over the last 6 years of doing this all the time. I completely agree with Valiant Stormed. Like, I don't work alone. There are a bunch of people who I've been working with for years. I've known Kitlith for like 4 years. I've been working with Hedgeberg for like 4 years. Tux, who is one of the co-workers on the Atmosphere project, has been like working with me for 4 years. No, my job is not software development. This is a hobby. This is a hobby. You know what we're going to do with the process page table? We're going to make the taken a K virtual address. And then we are going to go to the system control, and we are just going to make this a K virtual address. And that's a hack, but it'll work. Yeah, no, I am lucky to have a hobby that so many people derive benefit from my doing. It is very rewarding in that way. It is a very, very rewarding hobby, and I feel very lucky to have it as mine. Yeah, you know, it is. I put a lot more work into this than I think most people put into their hobbies. But, you know, I put a lot of work into everything. The Switch uses the NVIDIA's custom Tegra X1 ARM processor. But the Tegra X1 has 4 Cortex A57 cores that they call the CC Plex. So yeah, it is a standard Cortex A57. There's a public, like, 3,000 page technical reference manual that I was looking at earlier. Tegra X1 TRM. Yeah, it's on PDF archive that I use to reference it when I need to. Okay, so we've copied the kernel, and let's see if this works. It probably won't. I mean, that was way too much code for it to work realistically. Atmosphere is running, and we should theoretically get output in a second. Yeah, this is the part where we, you know, hold our hands and pray. And also pray that it actually gives us all of our uart output. Call secure monitor, C3002. Unhandled exception in supervisor mode. Interesting. Okay, well, let's see why that happened, because it looks like the secure monitor returned successfully. I'm not sure what our unhandled exception might be. Actually, it might be from this page group closing. But let's use this backtrace. We're debugging now. So your atmosphere. No, I want that there. Make a new folder for the kernel. Sphere kernel kernel.elf. Don't save it because this is a completely different binary. Yeah. So a person named Hedgeberg, who is a really good friend of mine and who works with me a lot on this kind of stuff, thinks it's a genetic factor. But I have time because I don't need to sleep very much. On a typical day, or a weekday anyway, I get up at like 8:30 to 9. I go to work. I'm at work. Sometimes I can work from home, but I'm at work until like 5. I drive home. I go for a run. I eat. I make dinner. I am done with all of that by like 6:30. And then, you know, unless other things need my attention, I work on my hobby programming stuff between like 6 or 7-ish, and, you know, I make time for other things too, but I work on it like 4 to 6 hours between when I'm done with dinner and when I go to sleep at like 2 or 3 in the morning. I usually sleep. I am comfortable on 4 hours of sleep. In a typical night, I probably get 4 to 5 hours. I can do 3, but I don't like doing 3. I can do 3 for a couple days in a row, but it feels gross. And that extra time allows me to do things like I read stuff, I read books, I hang out with friends. I sleep 4 hours fewer than a lot of people, and that is an extra 4 hours that I can devote to my hobby and still have times for extra things. Okay, what is the kernel base address? Kernel base address is 45A6. 45A6 F5BO. It looks like this is happening in a store to the stack. Are we overrunning the kernel stack somehow? That would surprise me. Like, it would really surprise me if this write to the stack was failing. This is, why are we in map page group impl? We shouldn't be calling, oh, it probably is doing something else, isn't it? You don't have CNS, don't lie. I don't know what CNS stands for there. I don't know why it's calling map page group impl. We shouldn't be mapping stuff. The only thing that calls this is create processes, and there is no way that it is creating a process right now. So let's go up a level to 266C, and it looks like this is handle exception. Okay, so does handle exception like do stuff here? Yeah, this is probably just handle exception being bad. Okay, handle exception is probably just doing stuff and then returning, and stuff is failing. Central nervous stimulant? No, I don't use stimulants of any kind, unless you can't caffeine. But I think every adult in America drinks caffeine. Okay, what could be causing that? That's really weird. But it looks like this exception is happening. Oh, and this is absolutely the right value too. Because this is returning the right thing in user mode. I wonder. Oh, no, this is definitely an abort where it's like calling std abort in my process. Because if my process gets a result that it doesn't like from the secure monitor, it like writes to an invalid address. And DDEC, yeah, no, this is absolutely going to be one of my processes crashing itself because it didn't get an answer that it liked from the secure monitor. So Rio asks, do you have time to actually play anything on the Switch with all the work you do with Atmosphere? I have time to play some games. I don't really like playing games that much. I don't play a lot of them. I'm not a super big game player. I'm not a gamer or anything. I play Pokemon, well, I don't even really play Pokemon these days. I hack Pokemon, I data mine Pokemon, I reverse engineer Pokemon. I play Fire Emblem. I love the Fire Emblem games, and I'm really looking forward to Animal Crossing, which I will probably spend like 2 hours a day on for the rest of this year once it comes out in 2 weeks. Like, I love Animal Crossing, and I'm really looking forward to it. Okay, so my process is crashing because it's not getting the answer that it likes from the secure monitor. Great. That is a problem that I can solve. Let me look at the handler for call secure monitor. Call secure monitor 64. I'm not surprised that this is failing. Store pair to the stack, and then load pair from the stack. That makes sense. That's actually what it should be doing, so that's good. That means I'm not going to have to deal with anything like awful in that sense. Also, this is all auto-generated, so I need to check and, you know, make sure that my auto-generated handlers aren't doing anything wrong. Most people's brain become unable to read or code after 10 to 12 hours of work. You know, I have never had that problem. I am always raring to go. I mean, I have burnout. There are days where I'm tired and I don't feel like doing work. But I am absolutely able to write code after I work for a day. Do you have any good sources for learning reverse engineering? The honest answer is just dive right in. You will always have a better time with projects than you will with, like books. There's the site, I'll type it in the chat 1 second. It's microcorruption, http microcorruption.com. Microcorruption is an introduction to reverse engineering. It's an online, thing where you work with a real instruction set. And it is awesome. It has like the best interface of anything that I've ever found for this kind of stuff. Okay. So we know that as of this point, it's returning the right things. But unexpected exception in supervisor mode is interesting. But that's probably fine. I want to say that's fine. So let's assume it's a user process, and let's keep looking at the assembly. This is all inlined. But the arguments should be written correctly because we are logging them successfully. Are we logging them successfully? Yeah, we're loading them from args. And then we close all of them, and then we finalize all of them. And closing them will, does this have anything mapped? If so, it'll unmap it, but that should be fine because we are just freeing pages that we've mapped. How would it fail to get the right answer? Actually, I think... God, I wish I knew what process this is. Yeah, okay, we're going to run this one more time. And we are going to... log. Closed page groups. Returning to %s. %s is get current process dot get name. Will that compile? Probably not, but that's how it goes. I hope it compiles. That'd be really cool. Awesome. Okay. I do know my APIs well enough to at least do that. Nice, it copied successfully. I love when you, I'm going to do this anyway just in case, but I do love when you get it where it mounts right as it's copying, and it just does the copy and does the right thing. That's always really nice. Okay, let's run Atmosphere again. I think I need to rerun it because this was... Oh, there we go. It's running. Sorry, I got into like a boot loop, which sometimes happens. That's just SD card problems. I wish you guys could like see the output of this running, but I know better than to hope for things that are complicated. Okay. There we go. Returning to SM. Okay, so it is SM doing this. And I'm using the Atmosphere release build. No, wait, I copied over from this when I rebuilt. Let's go to Stratosphere, and let's see what that's doing. You know, some people are surprised when I say that I like debug my programs the same way that I would debug Nintendo's, but I'm really, really familiar with reverse engineering in IDA, and I find reverse engineering tools to be just far and away the best way to figure out what's going on in a program. EDC. Branch to x0. Huh, that's like an initialization array kind of problem. Oh, it's probably in a function that's in the initialization array, isn't it? 104, yeah. It's functioning to libnxnet. Libnxnet is doing setup for the unit array. Although, wait, if it's there, that would mean that it has managed to complete this successfully, right? Because here it does all of this. It calls the secure monitor to get the value. I mean, I know what my code does. It does call secure monitor. It's not crashing from there. Could you foresee OS for PC moving towards the type of Nintendo OS? Honestly, people are too set into using Windows and too set into using Linux for I think it to really be popular in like a commercial desktop way. But I would like to run this operating system on my desktop. I think that would be really, really nice. What are we saying about the version? We are saying 10 atmosphere, 10.4. And we are API version. Yeah, that should make sense. Like we're returning the right thing here. So why is it crashing? Although it's an exception in supervisor mode. Let's go back to the kernel. So it's not actually what I thought it was. Which is frustrating, but you know, what can you do? Actually, what is in the unit array in SM? Like, what is there that could even crash? Let's see. If I go to start, libnxnet, I go to init array. What is an init array? There are 3 entries. This one just returns the BSS pointer, I guess. Sure. Then there's this, which is going to like initialize the waitable manager. And I can kind of see how that would, you know, be heavy. But at the same time, that's surprising that that's a problem. There's an exception in supervisor mode, not an exception in user mode. What's this last one? Process list, this is just setting stuff to 0. You must config get initial process range. Interesting. Get initial process range. They should be doing a system call. This will do a get system info. I guess we'll do get process ID on result abort get info. It's really a weird address for it to be crashing at. Oh, did I just put in the wrong address before? No, it doesn't make sense for a place for it to be like saying that its last return address was. This F5 doesn't have anything important at it. I guess I will reload the kernel one more time just to be sure, but that doesn't make a lot of sense. You know what I think we'll take advantage of, actually, is if this keeps not making sense, then what we can do is we can... what do I want to say? We can modify SM so that it does some logging for us, so that we can see where it's doing the various things that it's doing. And that'll help out some, I think. Kernel panic at 153. Would a WSL interface between a microkernel and program made from monolithic kernels be possible? I'm not sure. That's a complicated question. Okay, we were just at the wrong location. Got it. Good to know that I was looking at garbage before. Okay, that explains it. I feel less crazy now. Panic in supervisor mode. 266C. That's, yeah, of course it's an handle exception. What we should really do is we should log out the state of the registers in handle exception. There's like no real reason for us not to do that. So let's do that. Let's see why and where it's crashing. It'll be in, it might be in the kernel source, but I don't think so. ARM64. Now this is just the exception vectors, not actually any real code for the kernel. ARM64. Current exception context. Man, where did I put that? I love that I don't know where I put the exception handlers. Wow, this is truly a winning move. Well, you know, when in doubt. Oh wait, that's include. I was looking at the include directory. That explains it. ARM64 exception handlers. Okay, I'm not crazy. Handle supervisor exception, handle exception. Okay. Great. So sphere log unhandled exception supervisor mode. Log. Are you headed out, Kitlith? It's been good to have you here. Hope that you've enjoyed this. Let me also comment out the process name logging here because we don't really need it. Good night, Drunk Winter. I hope you've enjoyed this. Exceptions contain X30, 31. Okay. For got it. Oh, I didn't see that someone new joined. Nice. Is there anything else we want to log? Yeah, we probably want to log the stack pointer and the program counter. Log. PC is context PC. Let's align that so it's pretty printed. Okay. Good night, Kitlith. Let's build that. Yeah, of course. I was not defined on a context. Cool. We have mounted the USB and now it's copied. Okay, now let's see what the state of things are at the time that we're taking an exception. Okay, that looks a lot better. Also, I had too many spaces. Right, because this is only 2 characters. You know, sometimes you try and you fail. That's fine, doesn't really matter. X0 is there. But PC, okay, so it's the kernel address that's failing. And what's our base address? It is BDF06. So it's BDF, it's 2228. So now let's reload the kernel into IDA again and see what that address is. I will probably keep going for like another half hour or so. I think I'll probably call it quits around 11 p.m. my time. But, you know, I hope people have enjoyed this. I wasn't actually planning on doing any development tonight. I figured it would take like 2.5, 3 hours to get the uart working at all. So I'm surprised. I mean, I'm pleasantly surprised, but I am very much surprised. Yeah, I'm really glad that it's working too. I wonder if we're like failing in the return from an exception handler or something. I could absolutely believe that. 2228. Load floating point registers from the stack. Did I misimplement my floating point register loading? That would be really funny. Restore this. God, why did I not think to give myself a backtrace? I have implemented a backtrace for the kernel already. I know how to get backtraces. That was not well thought out. I mean, it's very funny that I forgot to get a backtrace. Though I guess there's really only one place where this can happen. And this is in the synchronous exception handler. Okay, so it looks like I'm crashing in the FPU restore code for the exception handler, which is interesting. So I guess I'm crashing before we hand back to SM when we're restoring this context. And it's really surprising that that's possible because I would have thought that we couldn't fail that way. But I guess we must be. I'm gonna make it print out a backtrace so that I can like better understand what it's doing. So let's do that. And my backtrace is in panic.cpp, so let's get that. Atmosphere log. Yeah. I'll just copy this verbatim. Since there's no reason not to. And frame pointer is initially going to be context x29, since that's the frame pointer. And frame pointer is aligned to x10, and it should be x29. Yep, that should be correct. And get physical address writable. That should be fine. Pointer. Yep. That That seems correct to me. And it makes sense that we're crashing on that load, because that load is like loading at more than 0x70, and we're somehow only 0x70 up from the frame pointer. Oh wait, there's no way we can possibly get a good backtrace from this, because we are corrupting the stack frame. Fuck, okay. That makes sense, but fuck, that's gonna be hard to debug. Getting a backtrace is no longer really useful, because we will necessarily have a corrupted stack frame. So I wonder what we're doing differently that might be causing the state to be corrupted. Let me look at our call secure monitor function, which should be correct, but you never know. Call secure monitor, because we know that system calls are working in general, and so we don't have a general we always corrupt shit bug. Right, where is the actual system call? Hopefully it manifested SMC. Huh, why is it not typing? Weird. No, okay. Well, when in doubt, we know that it's going to do an SMC 0, so this is the price we pay for using optimized builds, but it should be fine. So this will move, edit, plugins, friend. Well, to load friend configurations. Yeah, we're loading the current state to x8. We are then moving it into x18 and removing x18 into TPRDL. Yeah, so that should all be correct. That will restore the state of x18. So we're not corrupting x18, which I was kind of worried about. And then this subs 140 from the stack pointer, which is fine. And then this at the end, where when it successfully returns, adds 140 to the stack pointer. Okay, so it is saving all of these registers. So that should be fine too. That should be totally fine. And then this will be correct. It subtracts 0x40 from the stack pointer. It stores stuff. It loads stuff, and it loads the return address. That should also be right. And let me go to the zero synchronous exception handler. We're inside SVC handler 64. Here we know we'll do this, and then it'll branch to X11. That'll be fine. This should all be fine. Let me check what the actual kernel does. Right, I closed my database for the actual kernel. SVN, SVC, handler 64. We are here too. I mean, this should be doing the same thing. Like, I was very careful to make sure that the assembly was correct here. Ugh, my bad. Should be subtract 0x40 from the frame pointer, or from the stack pointer. Store registers. Load registers. We have the same frame pointer and everything. And this function should be fine, because the thread won't be terminating, and so there's like nothing that could be going wrong here. Let me go back. Let's be calling this, which will do like exactly the same thing. In fact, if I do ams kern k core local region, this will be like termination requested, and it'll do exactly the same thing. Okay, so that's gonna be right, and then it'll branch here, and then it'll branch here. So let's see what the actual kernel does. Branch here, and then it'll branch here. I'll add 120 to the stack pointer. That also seems right. Load x30, x8. Is this the same offset? 120 minus 0 plus x. Oh, yeah, that's 30. That's 20. Should also be right. Yep. That should also be the same. x9, x10, x11, sp0, elr, spsr, tpidr, el0. That shall be correct. Am I saving those correctly? So 120, x9, x10. Yeah, that's the same, that's the same, that's the same. And we move those into those. I mean, I'm pretty sure this is like identical functionality. 0 through x7, x29, x30, x8, x9, x10, x11. Hey, Big Dom 8. It's going pretty well. We are trying to debug like a spooky kernel bug that I'm not really sure what's causing it to happen. We know it's an exception in supervisor mode, and it's happening when it's restoring the FPU. So how does that get called from here? Right, because in the normal case where we succeed in calling the system call, all should be fine. We should just uart. We shouldn't even be restoring the FPU registers. So what if, and I propose this, the FPU register is actually being corrupted by some other assembly function that's right? That is, this should uart successfully. Like it really should return successfully. And I believe it'll return successfully. Like, there's no reason that it wouldn't. ELREO1. Yep, no, that is exactly what was saved. Okay, let's see where the FPU register restore is even happening. We do this the hard way again. Restore FPU registers 64. Actually, it's 2228. 2228. And this is somehow crashing it. Well, we know why it's crashing it. It's because it's going to be adding an offset to the stack that is too big. Right, like this will just crash when the stack pointer is not big enough. FPU registers, and this happens inside switch handler. So it is inside the context switch handler. Is this going to be a scheduler bug? That would surprise me. I don't really see how this can ever happen, because the only path that takes you to here subtracts 0xco from the stack pointer, and then the stack pointer will be at least 0xco from the top. That is, I don't see how we can have a stack pointer that is only 0x70 bytes from the top. This position. Let's check for sanity that this makes sense. Yep, this is like a correct kernel for that. X30 though is 26F4, is that right? Does that make sense? Yep, 26F4 is the context switch handler, which means it executed all of this code, which means it did subtract from the stack pointer. Maybe it added too much to the stack pointer somewhere else in my assembly? Subtract 0xco, add 0xco, that should be right. Context switching does do assembly, so it's definitely possible that it's wrong. Okay. We increase the stack pointer by 10, and then we do stuff inside the L0 synchronous exception handler. Let me look at my source code for this. Kernel source, ARM64, exception handlers, ASM, EL0, synchronous exception handler. What's the exception syndrome? This is a floating point error. Okay. So we do that. We subtract 16 from the stack pointer. And then we subtract 7. Or if it's 7, we go here. We increment and we go there. But that doesn't make a lot of sense. What's the actual kernel doing? I got ELZ secret exception handler. Yep, store that. Move the SR in there. In the case of 7, it goes here. Does that. Handle floating point exception does exactly what I do. Okay. So the stack must be like corrupted on the entry somehow to. Well, x20 we save ELR EO1 in x20, so that'll tell us where it's happening. EO1. FPU. No, that's not right. We are somewhere else in this mess of code. I think we are doing different things. Oh, I see what's happening. I'm doing a context switch handle and not a, like this is not the right functionality. Oh no, wait, this is doing the same thing. EMS current local regions. This is getting the current threads, it's just getting the current thread. Let's see. It's a K thread. V3 is the flags. V4 is the thread context, and we call restore FPU register to 64. Hey, Big Dom, it's going pretty good. But the only thing that this does, oh no, it does do this. Okay, let's see. Store FPU register 64. Load register. That'll do it. Okay, that explains it. This is a copy paste error. I know what this error is. This is a copy paste error. Okay, I can fix that. I can very easily fix that now that I know what it is. Library Limesphere source. My mistake is that I copy pasted stuff from elsewhere. And man, where is this going to be? -r. Restore FPU register 64. My mistake is that my copy paste loaded from the stack pointer instead of from the thread context, which is just me being dumb. Like that is absolutely just me being dumb. Okay, so the actual source is going to be in the kernel. Yep, okay, it's in K-thread context ASM. I hate that I keep destroying the window that I intend to be my kernel window. 64 thread context ASM. Yeah, this is totally just me not thinking and copying like this. This should all be X0. And I bet this is wrong too. Yeah, okay. Okay, well that was exciting. You guys just got to see me actually debug a problem the way that I would have debugged it if I was not on stream. Nobody is talking in chat, and so I assume that nobody really had anything to say. But that is how I would have debugged this in practice. Okay, let's build that and see if it fixes the problem. And I bet it does. I'm glad that you enjoyed it, Valiant Stormed. Of course it was like a stupid copy-paste error. I mean, I love doing this, and I am having a great time doing this. But yeah, like, of course it's a copy-paste error. All of the bugs that trip me up for like more than 20 minutes are always stupid little copy-paste errors. That's okay. I am human, and I don't write perfect code. Okay. Let's run it and see if our output is better. And I bet it is. I bet that we panic somewhere else. Yes, and in fact, we now see that SM is succeeding and it is trying to get the minimum and maximum process range. Awesome, so that's exactly what we would expect if we did it right. Cool. So let's implement that. I will probably implement these system calls and then call it a night. Get system info for the process ID range is so simple that I can know I can do it without much trouble. Yeah. We're also going to want a result get system info u64 out svc system info type svc handle info subtype, and let's do exactly the thing that I would normally do. Man, I'm really glad that that can be the case for you, Valiant Stream. Like, it is my ideal world if someone is like learning this stuff in an educational way and benefits in an educational way from this. I'd love to hear that. Get system info. Okay, this is definitely going to be like a switch in source code. There's no way that it's going to be this awful else if bullshit. But at the same time, I don't actually... whatever, we'll just write the switch ourselves. We won't try to reconstruct this. It'll be fine. Let's copy this. Let's be get system info. Let's be get system info. It's gonna return result success, and the default is definitely gonna be return svc result invalid enum value again. Let's make sure about that. I'm bad at this. Invalid enum. No, okay. What does it return if the info type is too big? F1001, oh. Invalid enum. Yeah, it just wasn't tagged because I need to manually do it. God, is my log still covering the screen? Please tell me when I do that. I want to be good at catching that, but I'm new to having a log that I need to turn off. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I didn't realize. Okay, this is just going to be calling like the function that gets the initial process range. I should have that implemented in Kernel initial process already. If v23 is less than max, v14 is max. What is this? This is invalid combination. That makes sense. Get min, if min is less than max, then v14 is, let's name these. Get initial process ID min, get initial process ID max. And the other stuff is like pool manager stuff, but that's not too hard. Let's double check on the wiki just to make sure that we're going to do this right. Get system info type. Yeah, so if it's initial process ID and lower bound, then it's going to use the system info subtype. Does that make sense? Okay, so we want to do case system info type initial process ID min. Yeah, it's actually probably initial process ID range. That's what I called that. Let's verify that. System info type initial process ID range. Cool. Glad that I used consistent naming. The same thing here. We'll have this little handler scope and add a break afterwards. Okay, then we want to switch on the subtype. And do I have defines for these? I do. Awesome. So let's actually do set a cast. And the default will be return svc result invalid combination. Okay, then we're going to have case ams svc here, case ams svc maximum. And this like should be pretty straightforward. Oh, also I forgot I need to do our unless handle is not equal to AMS SVC invalid handle. Let me check that that's a real thing. SVC common handle. Do I define it in here? Nope. Guess we're defining that. Right, this is this shouldn't be static. This should be context for inline is better practice. Context for inline handle invalid handle equals. Okay, that should do what we want. Although handle is just typed to like U32, so it's not like it really matters. Okay, let's get back to the SVC info. Just way over here. We're working on this now. Let's push it up my little stack. And what we want to do here is, I think this is going to look something like mesosphere, or unless, since they're doing a kernel panic in the case where it's not right, they assert that the minimum is less than or equal to the maximum. Let me check what I called the function that gets the minimum and maximum. Include mesosphere, that'll be in kern initial process dot hk. What did I call that? Yeah, I comes before k. I'm illiterate, I swear. Okay, it's there. Get initial process ID din is less than or equal to get initial process ID max. And then this will be out is get initial process ID min. And this one will return max. And I think that is probably a correct decompilation of this code. Yeah, that should be correct. Awesome. Okay. Let's try and run that. And if it works, we'll call it a night. And the big to-do for next time is to set up the log so that it like forwards the port or the COM port from my host to my guest, so that you guys can just see the output in a window. And of course, yeah, no, I always make these kinds of mistakes. Handle. Oh, I didn't type the error. That's a dumb mistake. Result invalid handle. Okay, that's a super dumb mistake. What did I do wrong? Oh, I didn't actually call it. Thank you, compiler, for making that a compiler error. So I'm really glad that I have all errors turned on, because I just got a compiler error for my not calling the function I just wrote instead of a runtime error, which would have been hard to debug. That is really good. So, assuming this works, and that's a big assumption because I'm writing code and therefore it probably won't work, does anyone have any questions, since we've just spent the last 2.5 hours doing kernel development? And I've had a super great time doing it, but I'm happy to answer any questions anyone might have in this last little bit of time. And I apologize again for any drinking noises that might be overheard. 2 times 60 is 6060. Yeah, that's right. I implemented SVC get system info so that it can return these process ID ranges. And then I had a bunch of dumb compiler errors. And I fixed them. And now we're going to run and see if it works. And if it does, then I'll call it a night. So I'm pretty happy with the couple of hours that I've gotten stuff done in tonight. And I will probably be doing this a lot. Like it is my intention to mostly spend all of the time that I am working on implementing system calls streaming myself working on implementing system calls. And it might not be so interesting as I like do this multiple days a week, but I hope that it is at least enjoyable, even if it is, you know, me banging my head against the wall with bugs over and over. Okay, now let's run it. Let me make sure the output is visible again to you guys. See, gets dismisto, returned 2. Sure, okay. Kernel panic, add exception handlers. Okay. Interesting. Get system info, returned 2. Is that right? It should be returning the minimum value for the process range, which I would expect to be like 1 and not 2. Also, we have another crash in the exception handlers, which is fantastic. But let me reason about that for a second. Mesosphere, okay, initial process. Let me look at where I create the initial processes so that I can decide if 2 being the lowest process ID makes sense or if it's a bug in my code. Because that very well might be a bug in my code. No, the minimum process should be in loader, which should be 1 and not 2. So that's interesting. How is that happening? Initial process ID is minimum, is maximum. Should be right. Minimum is minimum of this and that. That should be correct, but then I don't understand why it's returning 2, because 1 should be smaller than it. We're gonna log here. Log. Percent u, percent lu. Side min, g initial process max. Because I want to know if that's a bug or not. If you have kept your Mariko switch on 8.0.1, not 8.1.0, 8.0.1, it will get hacks. We have stuff for 8.0.1 on Mariko. But if it is on any firmware version other than 8.0.0 or 8.0.1, it will not get hacks from us. But supposedly Gateway is releasing a mod chip, and if that's real, it might not matter what exploits we have anyway. Like if there's a hardware mod chip that works somehow, then it might just be irrelevant. Okay, we're running it again. Initial processing range is 1 to 8, but we are returning 2. So that doesn't make any sense at all. So let's go ahead and check that, because maybe we're returning an error code when we shouldn't be returning an error code. Let's see this here. If the type is initial process ID range, in fact 2 would be initial process ID range. System info type. Let's look at the assembly for this function. I don't want to like not have it work. That would be frustrating. Kernel, kernel.elf. So the range values are correct at least. That's really weird. I mean, it's obviously saying this just because it's printing out the register that holds that content in the first place, which is x0 or x1. But, this is really interesting. Yeah, okay, so this is returning an error code when it shouldn't be. Oh. Duh. That's stupid. That should be equals. Okay, that should solve it. No, I'm convinced that'll solve it. I don't need to look at the assembly. I am confident that is the problem. You know, inversion of logic is like the #1 source of bugs in the code that I write, where I'm just thinking about the wrong thing and it just does the wrong thing. Yep, that is a bug. Oh, and this is going to be crashing because it's a user mode crash. This is my process aborting. This to do is me in the exception handler, because it's handle user exception, saying, oh, I need to get the memory state because I need to print stuff out, and I didn't want to implement that because it's a lot of effort. Yeah, okay, so this is my process aborting because it failed to get the system info. So now, if I do this... See, when I said it won't work because I don't write code that works, I was right. This always happens. But hopefully, I usually only have like 1 or 2 of those per thing that I write. And so hopefully it'll just work now. Oh, there we go. Stubbed, SVC get process ID 64 was called. Awesome. Yes, it is getting that, and it is now trying to get the process ID. That's also a trivial system call to implement, but I said I would call it quits right here. And so we will call it quits right here. Any last minute things that you guys want to ask about the stuff that we did tonight? Who is it that presented their work? That was Pluto and Naywert, etc. But they, like, I mean, everyone involved works together on this stuff. Do you think it's possible that what Gateway has done is No. The Mariko stuff is not Fuse. It is not a boot ROM USB exploit. Mariko RCM mode uses the X USB stack and not the USB stack. The X USB stack is much better than the USB one, and NVIDIA has presumably audited it. I am completely confident that it is not another USB bug in that way. Frankly, given what I've heard, I am faced with the conclusion that it must be a glitching mod chip. But I don't see how they could be shipping a glitching mod chip because Mariko's boot ROM has anti-glitching code in it. So, you know, we'll find out when it's released, if it is released. I am at the point where I don't know when to say what it is, but I know it is not that. Also, my thing is doing a thing where it disconnects me from chat and reconnects me to chat, so if you said anything after that, I didn't get it. Also, hopefully, Pluto said that he was interested in being a guest on a future stream, and now that I'm like doing kernel stuff, I'm sure he will be happy to show up. So expect Pluto to be a guest speaking as I'm working in a future stream, and hopefully that'll be fun. HTHH, if you are still watching, I would also be happy to have you come on and talk about kernel stuff, although I doubt you are interested. But know that the option is open to you. And okay, with that, I will probably call it a night. I will be doing this again in the next couple of days. I really hope people have enjoyed. I mean, I love doing this kind of work, and I love working on the kernel. So, you know, I hope that you guys enjoy me enjoying this kind of work. Have a good night.